Like with a lot of video essays, this is going to start with a bit of a personal history of the subject and the general rules of the list. Though if you just want to skip to the fun part, here's a timestamp. My first real exposure to the series was around early 2024, I want to say, when I was in a voice call with friends. There was someone there who loved grinding out retro achievements while in calls, and the game he was on at the moment was Hamtaro Ham Hams Unite for the Game Boy Color. I've heard of the show, though never engaged much with it. I was around the perfect age to have done so, but it just wasn't on television channels my family had as a kid, and knowing me back then, I probably would have thought it looked too girly or something. This game really caught my interest, though. It was a particularly late Game Boy Color game, and as such, there were a lot of technical things I found very impressive about it. It's a game about wandering around the world of Hamtaro and reuniting his friends for a big party. And you do so by finding these keywords that you're meant to repeat to NPCs and obstacles to solve puzzles. Howdy is not my hammo. Or ham spar. What? Enemies. Like, imagine if that keyword system from Final Fantasy II was expanded into a whole adventure game. There's 86 of these keywords, and every one of them also comes with its own unique animation too. It must have been a lot of work, and they're all very well done. The animation work, the writing, the general tone, and how non-violent the game is too, well, for the most part, gives me the vibe of something far ahead of its time. Like, if you put this game on some kind of wholesome direct and told me it was an upcoming indie game inspired by Game Boy aesthetic, I would probably 100% believe it. I got curious enough to try it myself, and this blind playthrough I actually recorded and is available on my channel if that would interest anyone at all. Oh, you're gonna like that smell. I love strawberry soccer! We went on then to start actually watching the show. Initially out of curiosity since I liked the game so much, but eventually Hamtaro watch parties turned into a thing I now occasionally do with internet friends. This show does that thing I would assume My Little Pony or Bluey does for a lot of folks, where I am clearly not the target audience for any of this, but it does a lot of little things that add up to create something I get a lot of enjoyment out of, on top of being a really good show just on its own merits too. The characters are memorable, well written and funny, they bounce off each other wonderfully, they get into crazy scenarios that are engaging to watch and kind of like pique my interest to how they're going to get out of them. The localization is goofy, but in a way that feels self-aware and respects the source material too. Oh yeah, I'm ranking the dubbed versions of these episodes, by the way. I'm more of a dub guy personally. I hope that's not blasphemous for this particular show. So here's how this video is going to work. Firstly, this isn't a tier list video. Instead, I will be going through my thoughts on every Season 1 episode in order of my personal least favorite to favorite. And the reason I'm just covering Season 1 is honestly just prospects. This alone is 52 episodes, so it's already going to be quite long. And on that note too, I might as well say that I'm not actually 100% certain what even counts as Season 1 for this show. Because hear me out here. IMDb and Wikipedia say that Season 1 is the first 26 episodes, while the Hamtaro Wiki and Ham Ham Paradise say that it's 52 episodes. I trust all four of these sources, though of the four, I probably trust this one the most. Ham Ham Paradise is a wonderful little website that's been in operation since 2005. It's the face of the leading fan community for everything relating to Hamtaro that itself is a wealth of information, media, and sources. This website was definitely responsible for helping me get into this series as easily as I did. I seriously wish more shows had resources of this sort, and it absolutely helped me with research on this video too. But anyway, I guess I'll stick to the first 52 episodes for this video. I think it'll make the video more fun, as there's a ton of second half episodes that I love and would love to talk about. It's covering more ground, and this will also leave the door open for if this video blows up and I'd like to do a sequel of sorts. So let's begin. So a tricky dilemma with this video is I'd like to structure it in such a way that people who have never watched Hamtaro can still enjoy it. And to do so will require me to go over all of the members of the Ham Ham Clubhouse, and likely most characters in general. Anyway, these Clubhouse members are the main characters of the show, and the common consensus is that there are 15 of them. Not to overwhelm y'all, I think it'd make the most sense to explain them as they become the focal point of any particular episode I talk about. That'll at least spread this out a little bit. That feels like a good compromise to me. And to explain my personal least favorite Hamtaro episode, we'll need to quickly explain 4 characters. First, we have Pashmina. Pashmina is one of the more mature hamsters of the group, typically written as a very kind, considerate kind of character. She is a bit bland too, in my opinion, as a result of this. Like, you know the Animal Crossing personalities? She would fit squarely into the normal group to a degree that she kind of blends in a little. But I mean that in a nice kind of way too. She's always there when you need her. She's mostly known, however, for being the older sister and caretaker to Penelope. Penelope is the youngest of the Ham Hams. She's practically a toddler, as signified by being mostly nonverbal, barring her catchphrase that she repeats all the time. Oh, cute! Oh, cute! Oh, cute! She's also the smallest and is also carrying a blanket around. Oh yeah, that's why she looks like this, by the way. When I first saw this character, I thought she was some kind of Pac-Man ghost, but in reality, she's just wearing her blanket over her body at all times. It's kind of a cool design, honestly. When I first started watching the anime, I thought I was going to hate this character, actually. I find these younger characters who are tied to the hip of a caretaker character often gets resorted to being, I guess, sort of a prop most of the time, where they're always getting in trouble and are used as motivation for the other character. That does happen on occasion, though Penelope doesn't get in peril any more than most of the other characters, I feel, and even gets some occasionally pretty badass moments of her own. I like her a lot, she's cute and fun. And finally, for now, we have Dexter and Howdy. They are certainly characters. To be real, these two are the least favorite characters of basically everyone in the watch parties I host, especially Howdy. All my homies hate Howdy. Collectively, they both have a crush on Pashmina and constantly fight for her attention and affection. It's a little annoying, but ultimately played for laughs and is fine, I guess, if only because she basically never recuperates any of these feelings. Like, it's just them arguing all the time. Individually, Dexter is a smart-ass nerd you want to shove in a locker. Very pompous and full of himself, would probably call himself a gentleman, if you know what I mean. My favorite thing about him is actually an element of his design. He doesn't wear glasses, but has a fur pattern that emulates such a thing. And it's something I'm honestly surprised I don't see more often on characters or, like, furry designs. And then there's Howdy. Howdy is just kind of a nuisance. One of his most defining characteristics is that he tells bad jokes. I think he's meant to be a shopkeeper. He does wear a shop apron at all times, but he doesn't really sell anything, really, or make deals with people, or obsess over money, or anything you would expect from an archetype like this. Let me tell you, you know you've messed up when I hate a shopkeeper character. So, the worst Hamtaro episode, in my opinion, features these 4 characters the most prominently. Can you guess which one it is? Number 52 is episode 34, Watching Over Cute Penelope.
Seems to me I'm a natural in the male role like this with my raw masculinity and all. Oh, cute!
There really aren't many bad Hamtaro episodes, if I'm to be real with you. Most I don't connect with are typically as a result of me finding them boring, or featuring plot threads I couldn't care less about, or they feel like they characterize a favorite character poorly. But this one is unique, in that it is the only episode in the series that I would describe as problematic? The plot of episode 34 is that Pashmina is going out for the day and can't take Penelope along with her, so she asks the other characters to babysit her. At this point, Howdy and Dexter butt in and fight over volunteering to watch her personally, because if they can get Penelope to like them, surely Pashmina would have no choice but to fall in love with them too. Their grand plan to win her affection is to get the kid involved. I'm not crazy, right? The idea of trying to get close to someone's kid, well, younger sibling, you know what I mean, for the explicit purpose of getting them to like you so you can get closer to their caretaker, that's like really manipulative, right? And they're so unsubtle about it that even Boss, the lovable dumbass that he is, sees right through it.
It's Pashmina they care about here. They want to look after Penelope to get on Pashmina's good side.
Sure, I knew that.
Love is in the air.
No, it isn't. That's creepy. I feel any better episode would then have her scold these two, and the episode would then be pretty normal from there. But no. These two go on to start actually trying to babysit her, and it goes about as well as you'd expect. They're constantly being overbearing of her and fighting, and she is just noticeably upset all the time. Eventually she just leaves and falls into a hole and almost dies. By the way, I also want to start a counter for every time a hamster almost dies or gets in peril. It happens surprisingly a lot. The other club members have to save her, and they're not even held responsible for any of this either. In fact, they're thanked, and she offers to let them do it again. I don't trust these two of a child.
They must have gotten dirty showing Penelope how to dig tunnels or something. Oh well, boys will be boys.
You can't be serious. Boys will be boys. You know what they say. I was blown away after watching this one. Even for the time, I'm kind of surprised this was the plot they went with here. You know what this cute show needs? About 10 minutes of these two nice guys making a toddler really uncomfortable before some classic child abandonment. You know, at this point I want to mention too, this video isn't good fun. You ever see that video of some SpongeBob review where this guy is getting fears about Squidward's house coming to life? I am going to be that heated at points, but rest assured that I am very self-aware and doing so solely for entertainment purposes. The idea of getting overly angry at Hamtaro is genuinely funny to me. With that said though, I do consider this the worst Hamtaro episode still, mostly for prominently featuring two characters I already didn't like and just giving them too many scenes that make them even more unlikable, all over a motive that feels like it would not fly in a television show today unless it's an actual villain doing it. I also dislike this episode because it robbed us of an opportunity we don't really get ever. The opportunity to have Penelope alone. Anytime a character interacts with her, it's almost always through Pashmina. So an episode like this would have been a cute opportunity to write her bouncing off characters she doesn't interact with that often. Like, I don't know, let her build something with Panda, let Maxwell read her a bedtime story. It's more of a squandered opportunity at the end of the day, and I really don't like this one. Number 51, my second least favorite episode, is episode 47, Romancing the Roosters.
Poor guy.
If this is a perfect love story, then I don't think I like them.
So, Hamtaro is a pet, so he has an owner who has a family and friends and a social life of her own. A thing that really surprised me about this show when I started watching it is that there are a lot more human characters in Hamtaro than I was expecting, especially when there were none in the game. They're often used for B-plots that tie into whatever the hamsters are doing for any particular episode. They're fine for the most part. I find most of them can be even more one-note than the hamster characters, and they're rarely as interesting, but they're inoffensive and serve as a good downtime versus the chaotic antics of, admittedly, who you're actually watching the show for. You know, the hamsters. On a side note, a fun game our group started playing whenever we saw any human characters is to watch their legs. These artists cannot draw human legs for the life of them. It's really funny. They also can't draw scale either. I swear sometimes these animals are microscopic compared to their humans. They probably just drew them to whatever looked the silliest, and they always succeeded. Anyway, what's the issue with episode 47? Well, it's one of those rare episodes where I feel the human plot overstays its welcome to a point of it just kind of being the A-plot. And it's a plot I found so boring that, to date, it is the only episode that I fell asleep while watching. Hamtaro's owner is a girl named Laura, and she has a teacher named Mr. Yoshi. Mr. Yoshi is in love with this woman named Charlotte because she is really good with animals, and he likes animals too. But oh no, he also has a crippling fear of chickens, and Charlotte really likes chickens, so much that her last name is Rooster. I'm just finding this out now, thank you Hamtaro Wiki. And she also has all these chickens on her property, and her dad dresses like a rooster, and is really strict of you unless you like chickens, and Oh my god. Hey, what is it the hamsters even do in this episode again? I legitimately forgot. This episode is more or less the same joke over and over again of guy gets scared of chickens, featuring too many characters I feel aren't very strong in a lead position like this. Like, I don't know, this one just didn't really interest me at all. Like, I just said these characters are fine. I like a bunch of the human characters, but like, does anyone really clamor for any of these humans? Like, I don't know, when you ask someone who their favorite Hamtaro character is anyone going to say Charlotte Rooster, you know? And you know what the worst part is, too? This is the second time they did an episode with pretty much the exact same kind of plot. Number 50 is episode 43, The Great Chicken Chase.
Where are we? Did we scare the chickens off yet?
I generally like this one a little more because while it has most of the same actors doing the same things, well, besides the Rooster Dad guy, it's just a bit more novel because it came first and features the hamsters a little bit more. The plot of this episode is the kids go to school on a Saturday to help Mr. Yoshi take care of the school animals. Hamtaro and Oxnard's owners bring them along because why wouldn't they? The humans in this universe bring their hamsters everywhere. It's kind of wild. Anyway, Oxnard. Oxnard is a big palooka who's one of the earliest hamsters introduced. He's the largest hamster. I think, I don't know, sometimes it's inconsistent with Boss, but he's no less than like the second largest. And he also has a cow pattern. And he talks a lot about eating or looking for something to eat. Saying just that, your immediate thought might be, oh, he's the fat kid of the show. A pretty outdated trope that a lot of kids shows had. Like, ooh, there's always a fat kid, he's fat, and all he ever thinks about is food, right? Although with Oxnard, I'm inclined to say that this isn't really the case of him, actually. There's a lot more to Oxnard than that, and if anything, it's another thing I find a little ahead of its time about this show. They basically never make fat jokes with this character. Any gag at his expense is more often than not as a result of his shyness or cowardice, almost in a Luigi kind of way. He has a lot of big friend energy to him in that sense. He has like this emotional support sunflower seed, though I swear it becomes less a part of his character as time goes on. I swear at the point my friends and I are at in the show right now, it's like the writers have entirely forgotten about it. It's kind of weird. He's also definitely Hamtaro's best friend. If how often they hang out together and are featured together in episodes is anything to go by, coincidentally their owners are also best friends, though I'm not going over every human character. There's too many and I frankly don't care that much. Oxnard is not a prominent character in this episode. I just wanted to talk about another hamster again, and I'm suddenly feeling in a much better mood now. Anyway, Oxnard wanders off and meets the three scariest chickens in town, who apparently have names. Thank you, Hamtaro Wiki. Him and the other characters get chased around a lot. Mr. Yoshi fumbles a lot trying to handle them because, you know, guy gets scared of chicken is such a riveting gag.
Imagine their giant feet.
Then out of nowhere, Charlotte comes in again and effortlessly apprehends them. Mr. Yoshi is love-struck, and that's kind of how the episode ends. Little interesting tidbit about this episode, but there's a chance I might be being a bit too hard on it here, considering we don't have the full episode. The rips of these episodes I've been experiencing the series through, I kind of assume were ripped from sources such as compilation DVDs or when the actual show aired. You'll sometimes see random subtitles or like random watermarks all over the place. As a result of this, they're really low quality. Like, my folder containing all of the footage I'm using for this video is not even 6 gigabytes. That's how crunchy some of these rips are. Weirdly, this kind of added to the charm for me, actually. And also, while it's rare, some episodes do have clips that are entirely missing. Which means, yes, there does exist Hamtaro lost media. It's kind of wild. I'm not going to mention all instances of this. I doubt they would seriously change any rankings anyway, but yeah, this is the earliest in this video we're going to see an episode with something of the sort. Little behind the scenes of this video, but one of the first things I did when I was like going over if I want to decide on if this is the next video essay I want to spend the next half year of my life probably working on was I basically skimmed through every episode and gave them all a little personal rating from 1 to 4. My goal with this was to make a rough draft for the rankings themselves. 4 stars were my personal favorites, 3 stars were episodes I otherwise really did like still, 2 stars were ones I had a fun time with but didn't really find particularly remarkable, and the 1 stars were the ones I disliked or just outright cannot remember the plot of for the life of me. Of which there were only 5, by the way. Again, I don't really think there are that many bad Hamtaro episodes, at least in Season 1. One definitely that landed super low, though, was number 49, which is episode 46, The Sports Festival.
30.
How's it going there, muscle man? Want to see if you can lift my pound cake?
17. Just a glass of milk for me. I'm gonna pass on the dessert.
This is another one where I feel the human plot overstates its welcome, although I promise this will be the last one that I found underwhelming for this reason for at least a little bit. We've had 3 in a row, and I don't want it to come off like I just hate the human characters. My issue with this one isn't necessarily the episode's fault, there just isn't a common story trope in a show like this that would interest me less than a sports episode. I find them formulaic, predictable, often repeating the same phrases or lines to a degree of ignoring how characters are usually characterized, as they obsess over winning and nothing else. Oxnard in particular here, he doesn't really get this heated ever, and it just feels wrong, honestly. Everyone's wearing the same boring costumes, and it all ends with the same morale of, oh, maybe it's not all about winning after all. I'm not even a sports guy myself, I'm sorry, Like, the only sports story I've really experienced in recent memory that caught and captured my attention was the story of Beastie Ball, with its bigger emphasis on delving into the politics of sports. That was a cool twist, and honestly got me thinking about it quite a lot. I think the funniest part of this episode to me is they have this one scavenger hunt event. One of the objectives they're given is to find a dog, but instead of, just taking a picture of the dog or, just saying, oh, we found it and the adults can vouch for it, they have to, actually take the dog with them.
We're taking the dog! Somebody please tell the owner we'll bring him back!
They kidnapped someone's pet for no reason. What the heck, guys? Unhinged moments like this are actually a big draw of this show to me, though I'll talk more about them later. But, I don't know. It is certainly a sports episode. So number 48 is episode 15, Bijou's Favorite Ribbon.
It's just a little scratch. I'm okay. No, you silly boy.
Oh boy, we get to talk about Bijou! Bijou is French.
You will love it. It's magnifique.
She's a hamster who belongs to a rich immigrant family and has adopted a lot of their traits of being a very posh, proper, gentlewomanly character. I get kind of a Richie Rich vibe from her, where, despite living in a mansion and among the super wealthy, she tends to have the most fun with the 99%. The everyman, you know, folks like us. She's helpful with people, she's cute and fun and very understanding and tolerant, she's very girly and kind, she has this adorable French accent. I find she's a very easy character to like, honestly. And you know, while we're here, I probably should have done this character earlier, but let's talk about Hamtaro too. He is a protagonist. Admittedly, anything you probably could say about a main character in a show like this basically applies to him. Though that's not necessarily a bad thing. He's fun to follow and gets along with just about everyone. He's the perfect protagonist for a show like this. I feel anyone could relate to him in some kind of way. He's brave, he's helpful, he's adventurous, but he's also quite naive in a way that's really funny. Particularly, he's really clueless about love. For example, Bijou actually has a crush on Hamtaro, to which he doesn't recuperate, but that doesn't stop him from being one of her best friends. Very ace code of him, if you ask me. That's actually how I relate to him the most. So yeah, both these characters are relevant to episode 15, and my problem with episode 15 is mostly bad characterization. It's frustrating characterization, even. You know all that stuff I just said about Bijou being tolerant and open with people? Throw that out the window here, because the plot of this episode is one of Bijou's pigtail ribbons gets stolen, and she just gets needlessly emotional about it. Bijou's always been one to care about her appearance, though this whole sequence makes her come off as borderline vain. She thinks Hamtaro stole it, and Maxwell does his best to explain the misunderstanding, and she is still upset, being more so petty over Hamtaro not noticing that her ribbon was gone. She thinks he doesn't care about her for some reason, and she locks herself in a room. Everyone else is like, okay, I guess, and goes nut collecting. Hamtaro falls down a hill and almost dies. There's one for the counter. At least this episode has a satisfying conclusion where Bijou gets her head out of her ass and goes to have fun with everyone and demonstrates an apology by using her ribbon to brace his sprained foot. But meanwhile, I'm like, why did this need to happen in the first place? This feels like an episode that wouldn't have a plot at all if the Ham-Hams just communicated better, or understood each other more, which they want to do. Again, it's just a lot of bad characterization all around, I feel. This is gonna sound weird, but I find this episode a little triggering too. Like, friends suddenly being angry at me and me not fully understanding why really piques my anxiety. Like, I really feel for Hamtaro in this episode. This is a minor thing too, but I'm not a huge fan of how Stan is portrayed in this episode either. I'll talk more about Stan later, but like, just saying, I know he hits on everyone, that's kind of his deal, but trying to sweet-talk Bijou when she's having a breakdown feels a little too scummy even for him. Top all that off of a pretty annoying song right near the end, admittedly, too. Hamtaro's songs are really funny because, while they are rare, all of them, without fail, are either annoying as sin or the peakest shit you will ever hear in your entire life. There is no middle ground here. It's so engaging as you never know what you're going to get. But yeah, this one kind of sucked in my eyes. Number 47 is episode 39, The Flying Ham-Hams.
Lesson number 39, the laws of science take a backseat to romance.
So, we're past the tier of episodes that I feel are bad, and more getting to the ones that I just found a little forgettable. Quite a way to start it though, right? Like, you'd think an episode about hamsters learning how to fly wouldn't be boring, but it just kinda turned out that way. I overall found this one to be a little too formulaic for its own good. Basically, any gag or scene you can imagine from an episode about small animals getting into aviation is accounted for here with little subversion or that fun chaos factor that I tend to like out of this show. Honestly, I think my favorite thing about this episode is that Panda has a pretty big role. Panda as a character is pretty underwritten. I feel pretty bad about it, honestly. He has an adorable design, a pretty compelling gimmick that you'd think they could get a lot more out of than they do. He's a carpenter, good of woodworking and always reliable for repairs and crafts, and even manages to orchestrate a few huge, really impressive builds. He's a fun, if rarely prominent character, which makes episodes that feature him stand out just a little bit more to me. His ancestors have this big scroll of a picture of a flying hamster who looks a lot like Hamtaro for some reason, and hearing about this legend makes about half of them want to give it a try, leading to hijinks abound. They get hurt a lot. Given the comedic nature of this, I'm not inclined to call this a near-death. Eventually, they catch a ride on a hat attached to some balloons and, oh hey, mission accomplished. And that's kinda it. Again, not a bad episode, just underwhelming. Though it is funny when you consider that it cuts from them flying away uncontrollably to Hamtaro just being back home again. How did they get down? Number 46 is episode 51, Stan and Sandy Make Up.
Ideas, anybody?
Sorry, I used up all my good ideas earlier when we were planning to decorate a cake with my name on it.
This one feels a little weird to talk about. It's underwhelming in basically any way you can imagine a Hamtaro episode to be underwhelming, but none to a degree that it makes me dislike the episode. It's just a little below average across the board. The main conflict involves Stan and Sandy breaking each other's stuff that they care a lot about. These two are siblings, so it makes sense for them to get into fights sometimes, although I'm gonna be honest, I feel like the fight could have been between any two characters here. Like, I don't know, how this fight breaks out doesn't feel entirely in character for them, but it also doesn't feel particularly out of character either. They tend to respect each other's hobbies. Like, it just kind of makes me wonder how this fight broke out in the first place, I don't know. But yeah, they have a falling out, and then Maxwell remembers that it's Sandy's birthday, and by that logic, Stan's birthday too, since they're twins. Also, oh my goodness, Maxwell being the one to remember that is such a cute detail. I'll get into that later. The human B-plot gets just enough attention that I think it's a little overstated, but it's a plot with a pretty unique premise, so I weirdly kinda like it. Laura is trying to make shrunken heads out of apples for some reason. She doesn't even manage to do it by the end, so it's a B-plot with no payoff, but again, it's just really funny that I don't mind it. All the hamsters want to throw a birthday party to help Stan and Sandy, be friends again. They decide to do this by creating a big, cake food art, which in real life I hate. Long story, but it's quite compelling here. There's not much of a conflict, so they just kind of make up one where everyone starts eating their own art. Hamtaro goes, "Wait guys, you shouldn't be doing that," and then everyone goes, "Oh yeah, you're right, we shouldn't be doing that." Hey, you want an example of how funny some of these rips can be? Check this out. They throw their parties, Stan and Sandy become friends again, they get new stuff, they enjoy the food, and yeah, it ends about how you'd expect. Heck, in this episode about Stan and Sandy, I'm not even inclined to talk about Stan and Sandy. I think there's a lot more to both of these characters than these episodes lead on, so I'll save them for later. But hey, at least you know they can get over a fight. Number 45 is episode 30, Brandy's Big Race.
Not all dogs are meant to win medals and save people and be in races.
They aren't? Then what are they for?
You guys ready for the first big character that isn't a part of the core Clubhouse members? This is our first episode to prominently feature Brandy. Brandy is Laura's family dog, and he's a really good boy. He's a very sleepy dog, often briefly meeting Hamtaro as he runs off to the clubhouse. In most episodes, this is the most screen time he gets, but there are cases where he gets opportunities to be a lot more helpful and even heroic at times. I also find him unique for being a rare character who seems to interact with both the humans and the hamsters equally, despite not being able to speak either of their languages. Cause yes, this is one of those animal series where every species has its own language. It's kind of funny.
She's either shy or she doesn't speak our language.
But yeah, Brandy is a very easy character to like, I find. He's fun. This episode begins with the family heading into the mountains to attend a dog sledding race. Not to participate in it, mind you, but to let Brandy watch it to give him motivation to be more active. Okay. Also, right off the bat, we have another pretty unhinged moment. You know how you should never leave your dog unattended in a car? Well, call me crazy, but I don't think tying your dog to the outside door handle of a car is such a great idea either. Where are you guys going? Oh, he got loose. Big surprise. Brandy somehow finds himself involved in the dog sled race, and being the least trained at this by far, they get lost and get into a lot of hijinks on their way to the finish line. They get distracted by pumpkin seeds, get chased by a crow, Brandy saves a trapped rabbit from the icy cold rapids, holy crap. Also, is this a kind of same face syndrome? This thing is basically a giant hamster with big ears. Brandy almost does, oh my god! Predictably, Brandy wins. Love this art, by the way. This episode has a lot of these painted arts for whatever reason. They're really nice. So, yeah, it's a good one. Though, there are two things that hold it back a bit for me. Firstly, this is technically just kind of another sports episode. What, just because it stars a bunch of dogs this time, that doesn't mean I didn't notice. The criticisms I had last time I talked about also applies to this one here too. It's kind of predictable, characters use the same kind of language, characters break character if they need to make the plot move forward, stuff like that. And secondly, this one is a bit more of a bigger issue for me, but him.
Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and lovers of dogs. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the 10th annual sled dog race. Only time will tell who will drop out from exhaustion, who will lose their sled, and who will give in to wild animals luring them off the course. His design, his voice, I really don't like this announcer character. He is really annoying and kind of makes me uncomfortable too. While I hesitate to say that he ruins the episode for me, because he does actually appear a lot, I'm definitely not happy when this human banana peel is on screen. But yeah, other than those two, it's a good episode. Number 44 is episode 3, Calling All Ham-Hams.
I'm Sandy.
Look at her.
That's cool. You're like one of those Gemini's.
super duper early episodes are a little silly. Characters are just a little off model, voice actors haven't quite settled into their roles yet, you know, typical stuff like that. There's honestly a lot of charm to it though. It's interesting to go back to the especially early days of a show you like. This was my least favorite episodes of the first handful though, and bless its heart, it tries its best, but I feel it's just a little too busy, and I dislike the first impression it gives a few characters too. I generally like this series because it's super laid back despite the chaotic nature of it I love so much. It's something very few shows, let alone media properties in general, match, I find. But there are very few episodes where I honestly feel there's a little too much going on, and I just get a little overwhelmed by it all. I'd love to start with talking about another Ham, because this is our first episode where Boss plays a pretty big role. This guy in particular has the funniest design. Ah! I'm so busy. I love this chicken nugget. When I was first getting into the series, before I even played the game, mind you, Boss was my favorite Ham based on appearance alone. This is an inherently funny design. The little hard hat, his beard muzzle, his deep, gruff foreman voice, how much larger he is compared to everyone else. He leaves an immediate, strong first impression that this is a series with a sense of humor. He is a field hamster, which is their fancy way of saying that he doesn't have an owner. He's a wild hamster, which I don't think they have in Japan. Whatever. He's good at outdoorsing, and he's the one who built the clubhouse that the members all call a second home. He's a pretty traditionally rough on the outside, soft on the inside type. He's a bit of a hard ass with others, but it's only because he cares about them, often putting himself in charge and trying to come up with solutions on his own. He's probably the closest this clubhouse has to a leader role, and he's super fun to follow whenever he's around, which is quite often too. Episode 3 introduces a lot of secondary and tertiary characters, including my favorite character in the series, actually Maxwell. I'll talk about him later. Though it also does so with some pretty bad writing that I feel does a poor job of letting us peek into who these hamsters are outside of their name and gimmick. It's like, oh hi, I'm Maxwell and I like to read, nice to meet you. I'm Panda, I like to build, nice to meet you. It's all very dry and matter-of-factly, almost like they figured each character ought to be introduced by now, so they just kinda rushed whichever ones weren't in episode 1 and 2. I'd say the core conflict of this episode is that old breakup makeup trope played pretty straight. That's another reason I don't like this one. It's another pretty, formulaic episode, I find. There's a big scene where they all get into this, fighting tantrum that I really don't like. It's pretty well animated, though. Boss kicks them all out. You know, I'm realizing that I'm not necessarily a fan of when the hamsters get upset with each other to a degree that they break character. Huh, that's interesting. The B-plot involves Laura getting her first 100 on a test, which her parents are too busy with work and adult stuff to really notice and appreciate. It's a pretty relatable first world problem, I feel, though it does have a nice payoff by the end. Also, I love this scene where she shows the test to Hamtaro, and his one-track mind wants to shred it to make a toy or something. Boss realizes that, hey, I do get lonely easily, maybe I shouldn't have kicked everyone else out. He goes out to find them, he falls out of a tree while Hamtaro tries to save him, and they both almost die. There's 2 more for the counter, and then they start hanging out again. Yeah, this one's okay. Number 43 is episode 32, Valentine's Day.
Do you mind, boss? You're in my way. Got it.
Oh, what a surprise. The Ace Arrow guy didn't get a lot out of the Valentine's Day episode, am I right? Nah, I feel like my reasons for having this one a little low are a bit more valid than that. Let's dive in. This episode starts with some girl talk, discussing what they want to get their friends for Valentine's Day, and, oh, this episode has these two, hold on. Okay, Elderham and Auntie Viv. These two aren't a part of the core Clubhouse members, though they appear pretty often and are great additions to the cast. Elderham is an old man. He's wise, he sleeps a lot. Honestly, any gag you can see a show like this doing of an old man character, they pull off with him. Auntie Viv, on the other hand, is a bit of an antithesis to this. Antithesis. Okay, that's kind of a hard word to say. For an old woman, she is extremely energetic and athletic, and even occasionally pretty juvenile, always challenging people and playing pranks. Now, here's the thing about these two. Individually, I don't think they're that interesting, but whenever an episode pairs them together, it's always a fun time. They have a tendency to bicker and argue, but there's also something a bit deeper between them going on too. It's like they used to be in a relationship that didn't work out, but still stick around because they think it's what the other would like. It's a pretty nuanced relationship for a show like this, and it makes for an entertaining dynamic you just don't get out of other characters. This episode stars Auntie Viv, who is asking the girl hamsters for advice on how to spruce up her appearance, and a gift she has prepared for a secret someone. Meanwhile, the boy hamsters are discussing how to min-max receiving gifts. What? The secret gets out. It turns out Auntie Viv's gift is for Elderham, and as an apology for giving her a hard time about it, the gang volunteers to help bring him to her personally. And her gift to him is... Oh, you see what I mean about their complex feelings towards each other? She spent all day preparing for this, just to jump scare him.
So the Jack-in-the-Box was just a fake out?
Her real gift is hidden inside.
Everyone else then gets a sappy present, and yeah. If I can be real, the only reason this episode is so low for me is basically because this one scene is the only interesting thing that happens in it for me. Even the human bee plot has nothing. Lauren has a crush on someone, she gets cold feet over giving him a valentine, and she doesn't give him the valentine. That's kinda it. A very, very underwhelming episode overall for me.
What is his problem?
Number 42 is episode 28, The Amazing Auntie Viv.
Sad stories make me cry. Why did he wrap her paw in foil?
Huh. Okay, maybe I should have waited one more entry before talking about Auntie Viv. Ah well. This episode is her introduction to the series, and it's a pretty good first impression of the character. The plot surrounds the humans and hamsters getting into marathon running, kinda making this another sports episode, though I think it works here. Marathon running is a bit more casual as far as sports go, at least by my metric. So the only people who take it super seriously here and actually get competitive with it make a lot of sense. More so highlighting their personalities rather than having them act oddly just to keep the plot moving along. Sandy relates it to gymnastics training and wants to get involved. Oxnard wants to try it to lose weight. Cappy is interested in aerodynamic swimming caps. Oh my god, Cappy, I love you, but the series does you so dirty. Stan wants to get into it because some of the girls want to try it, and Howdy sees this as competition and suddenly wants to get involved too. Like, it's cute. There's more thought to it than just, oh yeah, you just want to win this nebulous thing, right? Hold up, why did my autocorrect change Howdy's name to Howard? Ah, my original OC, Howard Ham. The core conflict is then introduced when Auntie Viv effortlessly keeps up with Boss, and him getting determined to beat her because that broke his pride or something. It's fun. It reminds me of that old scene where Pikachu and Raichu race together. Actually, that's how I describe this whole episode, actually. Just imagine that scene, but with these two instead. Oh yeah, I forgot about this bit. The two elders actually did date, but it never went to marriage, and Elderham doesn't fully explain why. Interesting. It pulls that it's not about winning cliche, but again with a pretty cute twist. Both a hamster and a human go down and sprain their ankle, and the participant in the league go the sportsmanship approach of helping them instead of taking advantage of the situation. Pretty good moral there. It's a fine episode. Number 41 is episode 22, Pashmina's Present.
Lady Ham, you deserve to get mountains of gifts.
Stan, you are like so out of line.
Listen, I'm human, I'm prone to bias, I'm gonna be real with you. There's nothing particularly wrong with this episode, I just don't like it because it features Dexter and Howdy being their typical weird selves again at the expense of another character. It's one of Laura's friends' birthdays today, and this gives Hamtaro the idea to pick a random friend and give them presents for no reason, making this the rare unbirthday episode, which is apparently a real word.
And anyway, I don't need presents to know
Oh
that
my
you
god,
like
they're
me.
so creepy. Yeah, predictably, Dexter and Howdy just see this as a chance to be competitive about her again. These two scenes right here are comedy gold to me. Both Dexter and Howdy individually approach Hamtaro to ask him for gift advice on what to give the unbirthday girl, because they figured he'd be an unbiased source for something romantic. And his response to both of them is just, I don't know, give her food. He's so ace-coded, I love him.
You said you'd help me find the perfect gift, Hamtaro.
I was just...
I swear to god, Howdy and Dexter get more screen time in Pashmina's episodes than Pashmina herself does. Like, what the heck am I watching here? Oh my god, they're so retro! All things considered, she does end up liking their gifts. Look at this new fit for her, isn't she cute? But then Penelope comes out of nowhere and just gives her food and she loves it even more. Oh, the irony. This is a good Penelope moment. I really like this episode's moral, which is basically you shouldn't see gift-giving as a competition. Just give something from the heart and it's sure to mean something. That's a pretty wholesome message. Number 40 is Episode 7, A Summer Festival Adventure.
Pashmina, I've got some corn. You can have some if you don't mind it being a little wet.
Don't want it!
You know, a thing I really respect about this show is that it is bold about representing its country of origin. A lot of anime and even localized video games do this thing where the story clearly takes place in Japan or a Japan-adjacent fictional location, but in some vain attempt to make it feel more relatable or more approachable to international audiences, I guess, they just say it takes place elsewhere, typically America. You know, eat your hamburgers, Apollo, and all that. I'm gonna assume if you're watching a video like this, you're probably aware of this phenomenon and have seen this before. This is another thing I find somewhat ahead of its time with Hamtaro. I don't think they ever explicitly say where the show takes place, mostly because I doubt Hamtaro even knows what a country is, though they're far from ever trying to hide how Japanese the culture around him is. The architecture, the food, the clothing, the customs, the holidays, none of this is ever localized out, and given the target audience, this was probably a lot of people's first impressions to a lot of this stuff, and that's super cool to me. I bring this up because the plot of this episode is everyone goes to one of those Japanese-style summer festivals. It's a fun one, though it is a little low here because I find it to be a little all over the place. They go back and forth between the festival and the clubhouse a lot. First, Boss visits it with a few characters to show it off, then back to the clubhouse, then back to the festival with Oxnard and Hamtaro, then back to the clubhouse, then back to the festival, but with Pashmina now. She almost falls off a roof and almost dies. There's another one for the counter. When they all meet up, they do this dumbass dance and watch fireworks going off in the background. They call them exploding flowers, which is really cute. Splice all this in with multiple human segments, and it just amounts to an episode where the pacing feels off, and I just think there's a little too much going on at times. Dare I say, this feels like something they could have split into 2 episodes. Hamtaro doesn't really do 2-parters, but the creators clearly love these festivals, so why not give yourself more opportunities to feature them in episodes? Again, I do like this one, it's just a bit much. Number 39 is episode 40. Blossoms of Friendship. This episode has a lot of cute moments, though a lot of them are a bit on the non-sequitur side from each other, leading to an episode that's fun but lacks some direction for me, and is a little forgettable overall. The humans are preparing for a picnic and the hamsters decide to set one up too, and apparently Bijou and Penelope have never attended one before, so this ought to be fun for them. I think this is one of the earliest episodes to showcase the relationship between Hamtaro's owner's dad and Oxnard's owner's dad. They're good friends, but they tend to get into competitions about frivolous stuff, and it's honestly one of the funnier human dynamics of the show. Oh no, Bijou's owner is sick and she can't come now. Cue depression. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about this whole dynamic. Boss has a crush on Bijou, though it's something he mostly tries to keep to himself. I'd like to think it's half out of thinking it'd be embarrassing for him if others knew, and half out of respect for Bijou, who already has her own crush on Hamtaro, much to his own chagrin. But he sort of yearns to be her knight in shining armor, you know? This kind of stuff is really prominent in early episodes, though as the series goes on, his romantic feelings for her tend to die down quite a lot. And honestly, I kind of respect that decision. I'm not sure how much of an unpopular take this is, but I always interpreted Boss to be significantly older than the other Ham-Hams, so I did always see like a little bit of like age gap uncomfiness to this that didn't really sit right with me. Later in, it comes off more like he just really values her respect a lot and sees her as someone worth protecting, which I prefer. Oh my god, like everyone is here for picnics. Something really cool about this episode actually is that it taught me a thing. Having a picnic under a cherry blossom tree is a real thing tons of people do in Japan. There's even a fancy name for it. God, again, I love how much this series embraces its own culture. Can you imagine a universe where some localizer had the idea to turn these into boring green trees because we wouldn't, like, get it? How lame would have that been? The humans start singing the Hamtaro theme song for some reason. Hey Dad, wanna drop everything and sing a song about my best friend's pet hamster who I'm not actually sure if you've ever met, and all of his friends that I don't know and you don't know? Oh sure honey, I already know the lyrics too. This blooms the tree they sat under? What? They then get the idea to pick up a bunch of blossoms and hold them outside Bijou's windows so she can enjoy the occasion as well. We have one of Howdy's few bad jokes that actually got a laugh out of me here.
Hang on to whatever you can. Maybe not anything, preferably something attached to the tree. Phew, that thing was weighing me down.
But yeah, overall this one's kind of cute. Number 38 is episode 44, I Love My Grandpa.
It has something to do with fish and it rhymes with light.
Are you having a fish bite?
So here's a rarity, a human-centric episode where I think it actually really works. This episode is about Laura's grandparents coming to visit. The grandfather in particular might be one of my favorite human characters. His name is Woody, and his deal is he's an inventor who loves to make fun and whimsical contraptions, though they tend to malfunction and get a big reaction out of people instead. It's a fun gimmick that feels very in line with this show. Also, little detail I'm just noticing now that I have the wiki up right in front of me, pretty much all of Laura's relatives on her dad's side are named after trees. I wonder if a Pokemon professor is in her family tree somewhere. Oh, okay, I guess this is another episode with some lost scenes then. His big contraption for this visit is to make a giant automatic wheel for Hamtaro that starts going a little too fast and flings him off. Laura gets mad at him and goes out for a bit. Really relatable, realistic conflict here. Woody just wanted to make something nice for her that almost killed Hamtaro instead by accident. Oh yeah, the counter. So now he wants to do something to make it up for her. Hamtaro and the others work to get them into the same place together to help with this. We get to see Cappy's owners, which is pretty rare. I swear they get more screen time here than Cappy ever gets in the average episode. Poor Cappy. Eventually they meet up and talk it out, and it's pretty much the perfect conclusion to all of this. They agree to make something together in the future. Like, again, as far as human-centric episodes go, this one is really fantastic. Number 37 is episode 4. Come out, Bijou.
France? I never heard of it. Where is that? The next town?
I think it's where French fries come from.
Hey, another early episode. Oh, look at him go! This isn't Bijou's debut episode, but it kind of feels like it. More specifically, it's the episode where she officially joins the clubhouse proper, and it's pretty cute. It has a few elements I don't like, particularly a bit of the boss stuff I talked about in the last entry, but it's an episode of a lot of moving parts, fun pacing, and a really satisfying conclusion by the end. I think this is the first episode to introduce this dynamic too. Laura has a crush of her own on this other kid named Travis. He is a bit out of her league, though, being a star athlete with lots of secret lovers already, although their relationship still manages to feel pretty realistic and even healthy. He's happy to call her a friend and helps her out a lot, even if she never gains the courage to tell him how she really feels about him. So the reason Bijou needs a whole-ass episode to join the clubhouse is because, being from a rich family, she's pretty pampered and doesn't get dirty or go outside too often. She's never been outside her home before, and a lot of the conflict is getting her to overcome her fears of the outside world. Maxwell teaches everyone about France, that's a fun part. Is it weird that a big thing I love about this episode is how off-model some of these characters get in some of these frames? Look at these, they're insane. Everyone stops by Bijou's window again to convince her to visit the clubhouse. This scene is a lot more emotional and slower paced and heartfelt than you tend to get out of the show. I really love it. When Bijou arrives, they throw a big party for her, she has a ton of fun, and from this episode onward, she is a main recurring character. Oh my god, look at that scrunkly Bijou! Number 36 is episode 31. Boss is a Mom. Oh my god, I'm so happy for her!
This rain's gonna wreck my cheese. I better get under cover.
There is some good intrigue to this episode starting out. Oxnard and Maxwell stumble upon Boss fishing in the bitter spring, and they're all curious about it. He's been acting pretty strange in general as of late. When they all go to investigate, it turns out he's sort of been looking after this cat after noticing it had an injury. Cats have appeared in Hamtaro before, typically as obstacles or minor villains, so this is kind of a big deal. The cat was injured, so Boss has been bringing it food for a while, and the rest of the hamsters decide to give him a hand. This frame right here I actually turned into a wallpaper. The human subplot ties in pretty perfectly to all this. One of Laura's classmates recently lost her cat. Huh, I wonder where that's going. This cat is really cute too. They do a lot of fun antics with him. Eventually they all start to get pretty concerned about the logistics of watching over a cat, which Boss gets really angry over. This leads to him saying something that caught me pretty off guard.
You all have families. You have no idea what it's like to be all alone.
How have I never considered that before? Boss has expressed loneliness before, so it's probably a natural follow-through that he feels jealousy over being the only wild hamster of the group. The clubhouse is more like a friend circle, so this cat is probably the most proper family he's ever had. It makes you think. You know, it's kind of lucky that Laura is one of those people who talks to her pet animals, because now they're aware that the cat is missing, and that it'd be best to return her. Boss gets really defensive about this, which, again, it makes you think. These are nuanced feelings he's going through. The cat gets loose and gets chased by a dog. Boss then picks a fight with said dog, and then the three of them get into the fight too. This caught me really off guard too, because you don't really ever get fight scenes in this show. And then the girl intervenes, reuniting the two of them. You know, the hamsters don't actually get much of a conclusion this episode now that I think about it, but I still really like this one overall, mostly for its unique plot with elements you just don't see too often. Number 35 is episode 8, The Sunflower Field.
I read somewhere that you can get a stomachache if you eat them straight from the flowers.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
I'm not entirely sure how realistic this is to real life, but a hamster's favorite snack in this show is the humble sunflower seed. They talk about them all the time, and they're even a currency in the game. This plot is Laura and her family is visiting her grandmother's house. Woody doesn't appear this episode, it's just her grandmother this time, and she decides to bring Hamtaro along because the grandmother's house is surrounded by sunflowers and she thinks he would really enjoy them. Shortly after they get there, Boss stops by too. Turns out he hitched a ride on the car, and at this point, it's pretty clear that this is mostly an episode starring him and Hamtaro, which is always a fun dynamic. This episode is just cute. There's a lot of fun set pieces, good writing, nice animation, and funny jokes. It's pretty rare to see Boss this jovial too. It's fun to see him let loose like this. The human subplot plays hand in hand with the hamsters. Basically, while Hamtaro is out playing in the fields, Laura notices that he's missing and gets the whole family to look for him. I can't get over how they're calling his name like he's a dog. Seeing the family cooperate like this is pretty wholesome. They really care about each other and see Hamtaro as a part of the family.
Come on, Scaredy.
I can't help it, boss. You know us hamsters can't swim.
I wanted to look that up. Apparently that's true. Hamsters cannot swim. You know, I do occasionally wonder if this show ever contributed to more hamster adoptions in any way, whether it be in Japan, America, or anywhere else this happened to air. You know, kind of like how Purdy Derby got a whole new generation interested in horse racing. I swear around the time this came out, I knew a few girls my age who owned hamsters, and I wonder if they were familiar with the show at all too, and maybe used some lessons like that regarding how to take care of them. With the absence of any real conflict this episode, they have them falling into a river. Yeah, I'll add that to the counter.
Jump onto that bridge!
Holy cow, how did that work? Like, yeah, I really got nothing bad to say about this one. It's a great episode. It's got a fun conclusion too, as the final scene has them bringing back a ton of sunflower seeds for the clubhouse. You know, I got a bit of a funny anecdote relating to this episode. Sunflowers kind of freak me out a bit. In real life, I mean. I remember as a kid, they kind of scared me, as I always expected them to lurch forward and grab at me with that giant face like some kind of alien hand. They look just big enough, too, that they look practically unnatural. Like, they should have more sentience than they do, even. I don't know, they're just really weird to me. Does anyone else kind of feel that way about sunflowers? You know, I guess if I do have any criticism of this episode, 2 cutaways of Dexter and Howdy arguing when they're not even a big part of the episode feels like a bit much. They're a little annoying here. But, whatever. This one's great. So remember near the start of the video, I mentioned that in preparation for this video, I sorted all of the episodes into tiers. At this point, we have gone through all of my 2-star episodes, which means from this point onwards, and as I say this, remember that we're not even halfway done yet, they're gonna start getting really good. 3 stars aren't my favorites, but they are really high up there and have tons of stuff I love about them. Get ready, I hope you enjoy. Starting with number 34, which is episode 27, The Snowball Fight.
What's the problem? Penelope, she rolls!
I love Winter Wonderland episodes, and Hamtaro tends to have pretty good winter episodes. My least favorite being this high on this list only because it's about what you expect. And also, this is jumping ahead a bit, but a mere 2 episodes ago was the Christmas episode, which is one of my all-time favorites, so I found this a little underwhelming by comparison, but it's still great. This episode starts with one of my favorite Brandy gags. Hamtaro sees him like this and assumes his face froze right off, when in reality he just turned around because it was cold. It's simple, but it's a great character moment for both of them. Hamtaro and Boss encourage the gang to get over their fear of the cold and play outside in the snow, something I would not suggest to a real hamster, but it's really cute here. Boss teaches them how to make snowmen, make an igloo, how to go sledding, and take up snowboarding. Holy shit, Stan looks badass here. And of course, they get into a snowball fight too. As someone who grew up in a wintry area, I relate a lot to this, like very closely. I remember around high school years for me, a lot of refugees came to Maine who were originally from pretty non-snowy areas, so this is kind of a thing I literally did with fellow classmates. I kind of forgot that Stan had a pretty big role in this episode. Screw it, let's talk about Stan. Stan is a character I kinda like and kinda don't like. His claim to fame is that he's super flirty and hits on basically any lady ham he sees. So he's got a bit of that uncomfortable nice guy-isms that I don't like out of Dexter and Howdy, though I think it works a little better here, if only for starters because he's actually kind of a ladies' man. Like, he's got this smooth-talking voice, he's romantic, sporty, athletic, he likes music. He's kind of like a jock who has it all, but thinks he's more socially liked than he actually is. Also, we have a pretty wild example here of Hamtaro being ahead of its time again, or I guess more so predicting the future. A stan these days just happens to also be a modern internet slang word for someone who overdevotes to someone way too much, typically romantically. What a coincidence. I get a lot of, like, hopeless romantic vibes from him too. He does go too far sometimes for sure, but he's at least pretty darn entertaining. Laura takes up ice skating. That's a pretty fun B-plot. Where did he get that gun? What the? I love this scene where they're splitting into teams for a snowball fight and they all have funny reasons for who they're pairing up with. They all get distracted when Penelope gets stuck in a snow boulder and they all work together to go save her. I'm gonna add that to the counter too. Random 3D trees? They look like the trees from Mist a little bit. Interjected 3D effects was becoming more common around this time, but this is basically the only occasion of it off the top of my head from this show? How random. And yeah, it's fun. This episode is a great time. Number 33 is episode 11, The Wise Elder Ham.
So I says to myself, well, I'll be a rat's uncle. If that ain't a hamster, I don't know what is.
I don't get it.
As you'd expect from the title, this is Elder Ham's introduction episode, but I also find it notable for having a pretty compelling human-centric plot. The grandmother comes to visit, and she talks about this handheld clock that plays music. Her and a friend owned identical ones back in the day as a symbol to remember each other by, and as a good luck charm that they'll meet each other again someday. Laura then takes it upon herself to try finding this friend before her grandmother has to leave the next afternoon. It's a nice mystery, and dare I say, it might be even more notable than Elder Ham is here in his own introduction episode. In fact, he mostly just sits on a branch of the other characters the whole time. Like I said earlier, I find Elder Ham a little boring if he's not with Auntie Viv, though while he is alone, sitting on the side and giving advice is typically what he does best anyway, so it's not like this is a bad first impression. The Ham-Hams then suggest giving her a hand since the grandma gave them so many sunflower seeds in episode 8. Oh yeah, this series has continuity like that. It's not a big thing, but episodes do occasionally refer back to earlier ones. It's pretty neat in this medium of Saturday morning cartoon-esque shows like this, where every episode is usually in a vacuum. This right here is probably the angriest I have ever seen Bijou. That is a look that could murder. Maxwell knows of an old hamster out of town who might be able to help them in the search. Enter Elder Ham, who is helpful, albeit tends to forget the topic and is prone to nodding off while in thought. Yeah, like I said earlier, any old man gag you can imagine in a show like this is accounted for with him. His odd wisdom pulls through, though, as an old lady walks by who happens to have the exact same clock right in her purse. Hamtaro runs down and gives her clock a whine to get Laura's attention. They meet up, they explain the situation, then run off to the train station to reunite the two right in the nick of time. It's a really good episode. This is a really wholesome one, too. Number 32 is episode 37, Oxnard's Big Crush.
Don't take this the wrong way, but don't you think she's a bit tall for you?
I like my girls' leggies.
Oh hey, another road trip episode where they're going to meet a family member. This time it's someone on Oxnard's side of the family, specifically his owner's cousin, who owns a ranch. His name is Dylan. He's pretty fun. He's a pretty utilitarian character, being a character they tend to pull out whenever they want to do an episode with tons of barnyard animals. And who doesn't love those? More notably, he has his own hamster because why wouldn't he? Freaking everyone in this universe has a hamster. This is also Pepper's introduction. A minor character who doesn't appear often, but it's always fun when she does. She's a country girl. She has a country accent, or at least as much as one as you're going to get out of an anime, and she pokes fun at others for being city slickers. She's also great with animals too, and it is implied that she helps Dylan with his ranching work. Yeah, you've heard of like a herding dog before. How about a work hamster? God, I love this series. Oxnard is also in love with her. It took me too long to realize that they paired the cowgirl with the hamster with the cow pattern. That's really funny. Although, there's a big dilemma here in that Oxnard doesn't know how to tell her how he feels. This here is the central spot of gags for this episode, and your mileage may vary, but I think it's quite cute. A thing I love about this running thing, actually, is Hamtaro's reaction to it all. Remember that he doesn't get love, so half the time he's just like, dude, you could just tell her you like her. You ever think of that? Just goes to show that aromantic people can ironically have the best dating advice. Given the setting, they do a ton of farm animal gags with this plot, and Hamtaro not knowing what any of them are definitely adds some humor to it too. The kids get to ride horses, that's pretty fun. The moms go strawberry picking, the dads go bungee jumping? What? At one point, Hamtaro ditches Oxnard to try and encourage him to just tell Pepper that he likes her. Dude, I love their interactions here. She's so kind to him even when they're just friends, giving them food and asking if something is on his mind. Is this what people call Southern hospitality? Oh, but she does get angry easily when the idea crosses her mind that he's already seeing someone. I forgot Brandy was in this episode too. And hey, looks like I'll have to add this episode to my sheep folder. Pepper saves them from some rams, and then they just gotta leave. That's my only issue with this episode, honestly. It ends just as it feels like it's getting started. Oxnard musters the courage to yell that he likes Pepper from the car window, though it's ambiguous if she heard him or not. The goal of this episode was more to introduce these two characters first and foremost, so it's not like I needed a big conclusion here. There'll be plenty of times to flesh out this relationship later. I mean, there are nearly 300 episodes after all. The final episode ever is called Happy Ham Wedding. That's kind of a funny title. I wonder what happens in that one. Number 31 is episode 18, The Slipper Chase.
All right, we can do this, kids. We're gonna make a glass slipper. How about this?
You know the story of Cinderella? The school is hosting a school play, and Laura is playing the role of Cinderella. This part where they explain the plot of the fairy tale in like 20 seconds is really funny. Look at these arts.
And you say thousands of people are gonna come and watch Laura do this thing?
Wait, thousands? What kind of school play is this?
Most certainly.
Oh my god, Howdy, shut up, I hate you. A pretty notable thing about this episode is that Jingle has a pretty big role. I had been waiting to talk about this guy. I like Jingle a lot. He's a suave, wandering songwriter and poet, always traveling wherever the wind takes him and typically helping the Ham-Hams in roundabout ways. His rhymes make no sense, and he can't even remember Hamtaro's name half the time, which is actually my favorite running gag about him.
Hey, ham and eggs, I'm in.
A small elephant in the room with him is that, while nearly every source I could find regards him as a core member of the Ham-Hams, he actually doesn't appear that often. The marketing essentially makes you think that he's a far more prominent character than he actually is. Kinda weird that. It makes me wonder if he just becomes more active on the team past the point my watch party is at, maybe? I don't know. For all intents and purposes, though, I consider him a minor character. Along the lines of Elder Ham or Pepper or Auntie Viv, he appears infrequently, but enough to have a presence, but also never enough to be major, which makes his appearances all the more special, honestly. What he's doing this time around is, well, the Ham-Hams need someone to explain Cinderella to them, and to which he starts musing about Snow White and still gets details about the story wrong. I swear to God, everyone in the series shares the same brain cell, it's incredible. On the day of the play, Laura forgets the most important prop of them all at home, one of the glass slippers, so now it's up to the Ham-Hams to rush it to the school in time. Oh, look on the left there, a little Japanese they forgot to translate, that's interesting. They bump into Jingle again, who is charmingly unhelpful. Oh, I forgot that this episode is the first appearance of those evil chickens from the Great Chicken Chase. Oh, now that's a perspective. I love this shot here. Boss doesn't lose his hat very often, and this is really well animated. You know, I think the chicken shenanigans works a lot better here, as hamsters versus chickens is just more interesting than guy versus chickens. Jingle pulls a brave little toaster and uses a bunch of props to scare the chickens away. They make it to the school stage. I find this part kind of cool. It's interesting seeing a stagehand in the context of animation, pulling away the veil of one form of art in the form of another form of art. It feels forbidden. The hamsters get there just in time, and that is a really complex camera pan for TV animation. The play goes beautifully while everyone watches. Jingle finds the pumpkin coach. Oh yeah, that was his goal the whole time. I forgot to mention that. Overall, there's a lot going on in this episode, with some memorable jokes and a couple moments of exceedingly good animation. I like it a lot. Number 30 is episode 38, The Precious Letter.
Promise to come and visit me! I'll write to you every day. Well, maybe not every day, but once a week if I can.
You know, I'm just realizing how common of a trope this is for this show. This trope where a human character misplaces something, either that they'll need later or was intended as a gift, and the hamsters work together to deliver it to its proper recipient. In this episode, Laura writes a letter to an out-of-town friend, but gets dejected when she never gets a reply back and she can't even get her to pick up the phone.
They don't even have the answering machine on.
This line here is really good foreshadowing. Oh my god, it's another Jingle episode. Love this guy. We get a very uncommon character matchup as Boss and Jingle get some time together here. Turns out, they argue a lot. Well, it's more Boss argues while Jingle keeps his cool and just rhymes more. I think he's under the impression that this is some kind of spiritual journey, while Boss just wants to move the plot along. It is really, really funny. Doctor Who. So the reason the friend wouldn't reply to Laura's calls or letters was actually because she was on a trip with the family. She's ecstatic to hear from her again and immediately writes a letter back, but it gets misplaced and now they gotta deliver it themselves.
Tell her dad to come by if he's got time. I've got a new golf swing I want to show him.
Oh yeah, we call that the secret technique.
But don't you think she would have answered if she'd really wanted to see me? A good friend like Melanie would never forget you, even if she was super busy.
You know, have I actually talked about this character yet? I've been calling her Oxnard's owner this whole time, but her name is Kana, and this is the episode that really got me to appreciate her a lot more. She's the type of friend who always wants you to look on the bright side and offers advice or perspectives you might not have considered at first. I feel like everyone could use a friend like her in their life. She's pretty great. Hamtaro delivers the letter with some help from Brandy, and everything turns out great. You know, this whole conflict is a bit relatable too, as sometimes I want to share something with friends and they themselves just can't get back to me for one reason or another, and if more than like a few days go by, I start to get overly nervous sometimes like this. It's not often I find myself relating to Laura, honestly. Precious Letter is a good one. It offers some very fun dynamics, and I love a lot of the jokes here too. A bit behind the scenes of this video, when I'm re-watching them to write the script, I mark funny moments I could put before I talk about them as bumpers, then pick my favorite. This one has probably had the most so far. Number 29 is episode 36. Farewell, Bijou. Oh no, where's she going?
In 1 week, you'll be the only friend I've got.
Bijou and her owner are moving back to Paris, as her parents want her to take her piano lessons more seriously, causing a lot of worry among the girl, and among Bijou, and a lot of the Ham-Hams themselves. It's a pretty grounded conflict of a lot of details I love about it. For example, it kind of goes into how everyone is feeling about the situation. It's not just the person moving who is sad, it's their friends, their family, people who just walk by their window and enjoy their presence, their butler. The Ham-Hams try to make the most out of it by throwing a big farewell party. Lots of fun, unique animation here. Bijou is so silly, it's always special to see her be the center of attention like this. Another unique thing about this episode is that I actually really like Howdy's presence here. He's a lot more compassionate than he normally is, and he even volunteers to be the MC of Bijou's party. There's a song here that's pretty annoying, but in a charming kind of way. The delivery on this line here got a pretty big laugh out of me too.
And, I think that maybe, I'm trying to say that I love you, and
You know, I'm realizing that that's kind of the theme of this episode for me. It has a lot of things that I tend to not like out of this show, but it pulls them off really well. Everyone gives Bijou farewell gifts, and she gives everyone hair ribbons and bow ties, and they look especially dapper. This got a laugh out of me too, as Dexter just replaces the bow tie he already wears. As you'd expect, the big twist of this episode is that Bijou actually didn't leave after all. Her words is that her owner convinced their parents to let her stay. So, does that imply that she's living on her own now? What? Yeah, I don't know, it's a bit of a cop-out ending, I guess, but entirely expected given the series has to return to the status quo by the end. But it is great. Number 28 is episode 42. Welcome, Pepper.
She's probably scared out of her wits!
Now I know what that smell is! Yes, an escalator!
No joke, right off the bat, these are the first few seconds of how this particular rip of this episode starts.
He's bringing along, you know who!
Oh my god. Pepper only appears in 2 episodes in season 1, and this is my favorite of the 2. In this episode, Dylan and Pepper take a visit to the city instead of the other way around. The humans go into the city, while Oxnard invites Pepper to meet everyone. Snoozer almost spoils a surprise party they're setting up for her. I'll talk about Snoozer in good time. There's one episode where he's the most prominent, and we're not going to see it for a while. Pepper darts into the middle of the road and almost gets hit by a car, and everyone else dies right after her. That's like 4 for the counter right there. This part here is funny. To portray how busy the city is, they just have the frames of the humans walking all blurred for some reason. It's funny how Pepper just keeps running off and everyone's freaking out about her while she's just happy and running all over the place. It's kind of a running joke they do a few times in this episode, and I think it is a good gag. I think she's way more capable at this, like, running around thing than they think she is. They stumble upon a petting zoo in the middle of a mall? Are those a thing? It might be more common in Japan, who knows. Also, like I said earlier, these two are always in episodes about barnyard animals, even when there is no barnyard, apparently. Pepper and her limitless energy riles up one of the donkeys, causing mayhem at the zoo. Dylan comes in and calms everyone down. The hamsters go to the lighthouse. I find it's not often that a guest character interacts with everyone. This is pretty cool. They watch the sunset, and yeah, it wraps up pretty wholesomely. This episode is all over the place, but in a good way. Like, it fits Pepper very appropriately, and it's just a very good episode. Number 27 is Episode 2, The Ham Ham Clubhouse.
Hamtaro, how do you think this sweater would look?
Another early episode. We got a lot of fun earliness jank again, and it's an episode I respect a lot for introducing a lot of new things as you'd expect from an early episode, but also holding back a bit to not overwhelm the viewer with information and characters a bit like Episode 3 did. Particularly, it's the debut episode of Dexter, Howdy, Pashmina, Penelope, and Snoozer, and even several human characters. Those first 3, by the way, are introduced how you'd expect, though it does set the tone right for what to expect of them. At least Pashmina gets more agency here than she normally does in moments that are meant for her, but devolve more into just Dexter and Howdy squabbling. Am I crazy, but does she even seem to be enjoying their presence at a couple moments too? I don't know, maybe she's just being polite. It's also Laura's first day of school. That's pretty cool. It starts to rain, and we get a really well-animated action scene where they get chased by a cat. It's short, but it's the first time in the series that we see these characters shown in any real danger, and there's a lot of really good characterization here as a result. Boss invites everyone to his home. A few of these frames here in this scene where they're walking down the stairs is really funny. A thing you'll notice a lot about Hamtaro characters as you watch the show is they tend to have 2 ways of drawing them. A front-facing way and a side-facing way. Occasionally they try these in-betweens and they can look really cursed and funny. They take some time to clean up Boss's underground burrow and decide to turn into a clubhouse, and yeah, I don't know, it's just a fantastic early episode that sets out to do everything it needs to and does it all fantastically. Number 26 is Episode 5, Diamonds of Sugar.
Yeah!
Lots of bubs.
Small and round.
Like the colors of the rainbow? Even pink like my scarf? Oh, cute!
A pretty notable thing about this episode to me is that it's the first one that isn't mostly exposition. Episode 1 through 4 mostly exist to either introduce the core cast or acclimate them to the status quo, but this is the first one with a plot wholly original to itself. In Japan, there's this really popular candy called kompeto. I think that's how you say it. I've also seen them referred to as star candies, and in this episode they call them diamonds of sugar. They're these star-shaped sugary bits that look a bit like celestial bodies. Personally, as an American, the first time I've ever seen them referenced in pop culture was with the star bits from Mario Galaxy, though this predates that by about 5 years. This episode begins with Laura and Kana talking about a barbecue their parents are hosting, though they call it a lawn party for some reason, and Hamtaro is just fascinated by these little candies they're eating as they do so. He brings them up to the club members, and then the general gist of this episode is them theorizing where they come from and how to get their hands on them. Boss presents this idea that they're from space, and everyone just goes along with it. A classic example of how everyone in this show just shares the same brain cell. It's incredible. Oh, how convenient that the families are color-coded. It's fun to see the hamsters out so late. Typically, they're home by the evening. As they start to see stars in the sky, they start hatching these plans to get up to them and grab them. None of them work. Their best idea is to make a big stack, which also doesn't work. Yeah, they have no clue what they're doing. Though, they do see a shooting star, and their next step is to just wait for another one to land nearby. Again, they have no clue what they're doing. Eventually they give up, and there's something kind of wholesome about that. I don't know, it's hard to explain. It feels weird for an episode to not really have a conclusion that works entirely out for the hamsters. Though I find it does something kind of important. It sets an expectation. This show is pretty grounded in reality, and things don't always work out, but it's okay to dream. Hamtaro wishes for them to fall someday again, and yeah, it's pretty cute. Number 25 is episode 35, Midnight Celebration.
Do I look sad? How are my lips?
Leave me alone!
Another pretty Japan-coded episode. This one is about those Hina dolls used in a big display to represent an imperial family during the holidays, or during certain holidays. Admittedly, these are something I'm not too familiar with, though, again, of a lot of Japanese imagery in this series, it's not like they're going to show away from it just because its target audience isn't too familiar with them, though they do call them China dolls, though I think that's more funny than anything. Laura's setting up her display, and Hamtaro finds the whole thing fascinating and also kinda scary, and also finds the dolls super rude because they won't talk back to him. Eventually they find their way to Panda's house. Hey, a rare Panda-centric episode. We get to meet his owner too. It's a little girl named Mimi, and I don't find her too interesting. Besides the fact that she's probably the single human character who the hamsters are pretty open about being around. For the most part, the Ham-Hams attempt to hide from humans from the outside world. I guess out of mostly assuming that it would spell questions or bad things or even trouble for random people to see a dozen or so hamsters out in the wild for no reason, so how much they might even recognize. But Mimi is basically a toddler and way too young to care about the logistics of that sort of thing. She's more a character I like what they do with rather than the character themselves, if that makes sense. She's having a pretty unique dilemma, too. Her birthday is coming up, but her parents are too busy to celebrate it because they have another baby on the way, and are expecting, like, the very same day, too. So they're having a twin, but they're like a year apart? Is that a thing? I can't say I've really heard of that before. The parents are at the hospital and left their toddler home, I guess? What? She's feeling pretty lonely, and her solution is to invite the hamsters to her birthday party. Mimi's dad is a really funny character, by the way, though he doesn't get a lot of screen time until season 2. The hamsters get this idea to dress up as Hina dolls to put on a show for Mimi. I love this scene where they're all deciding who's going to be who. They make their costumes and then go host the party. This scene is really wholesome. It's one of those peak songs I was talking about tons of entries ago, too. Is that sake? Wait, maybe don't give that to the kid. No! The parents come home the next day. Turns out they had plans for her birthday after all. Though they do gotta just do them a day late, because, you know, stuff happened. So, yeah, the highlights of this one, for me, being its unique premise and the fact that Panda gets more screen time than he normally does. I like this episode. Number 24 is episode 12, Bijou's in Danger. Oh no!
She might have been lost. Like I said, I couldn't hear her.
This episode really hammers in how scary cats can be in this universe. They talk about this scary place called Fish Alley where a crazy cat allegedly lives. And then we cut to Bijou, who finds herself in the city. We don't know how she got there, but she almost immediately gets overwhelmed and scared. Maxwell catches a glimpse of her and reports back to the Ham-Hams, and they all decide to go rescue her. It's a pretty basic plot, but it's got a lot of super fun moments and great pacing. Bijou runs into the cat and faints. There's some fun human integration too, as they're also taking a trip into the city that day. But oh wait, the cat isn't super scary after all. It's a mother cat, and it's not crazy, it's just protective. Nice nuance there. This right here has gotta be the funniest line delivery.
In case Bijou comes back.
Whatever, just get Bijou.
Yeah!
It's so impatient. Like, yeah, okay, get a move on, guys. You gotta go save her. We have a good Oxnard moment where he overcomes his fearful side and wants to help out. The cat went on to start treating Bijou like one of her own babies. So she's not in immediate danger, but you know she's going to be super protective of her now. They have a funny scene where they, like, try to make a big ladder, and then they get chased around inside a bucket. Then Laura intervenes, distracting the cat enough for them all to escape. It's a simple setup, conflict, and conclusion, but it does everything it sets out to do incredibly well. Oh yeah, one last thing too, you gotta love the bootleg McDonald's right here. Number 23 is episode 6, First Time at the Beach. Is this where I make a joke about every anime series having a beach episode?
It's way bigger than I ever imagined. It's even better than in the books.
Look at all the enormous hats on sticks.
The family decides to take a trip to the beach. We get a cool shot here where they show a map of the entire town. I know lore people love stuff like this. I wonder how consistent this is over the course of the whole show. We also have a good moral right off the bat. Don't bring your hamster to the ocean. A lot of rodents in general don't like the beach. It's too open, too many predators, not enough place to hide, and the water is far too rough for them even if they can swim. That's not going to stop these hamsters from hitching a ride along, though. Wait, they left the dog behind too? Outside on his own? Seriously? All things considered, they do have fun at the beach, though it does do a good job of hitting home how dangerous and different it can be. I need to point out that I love this off-model Maxwell, and I love this frame of Hamtaro right here. Oh my god. That's a reaction image if I've ever seen one. Eventually, the main conflict comes in. A huge rainstorm. We get a great heroic Cappy moment where he pulls over a straw hat for everyone to use as an umbrella. Laura and Kana take cover in a cave while their parents are looking for them. And then the hamsters get this idea to help reunite them by having one of the dads chase them. What if the few times the hamsters, actually might have saved someone from danger? Holy cow. Everyone's happy, they go on home, and yeah, it's a great conclusion. Number 22 is episode 52. It's Robin Ham.
Time to put an end to your do-gooder ways, Robin Ham. What say we chill out for a while?
But it's summertime!
Technically the season finale. It doesn't go out of its way to be big and bold and huge, but instead just has a pretty unique premise and some pretty great writing. We start with everyone sword fighting. Oh my god. This episode carries a trope we don't see too often, but consistently are always some of my favorites. Dream episodes, where every character, including Laura, falls asleep and has a shared dream, where each character plays a new role and they recreate a fantasy story. They're a lot looser on rules and tend to be pretty special and over the top as a result, this being my least favorite in the series, despite being over halfway up the list. If I can be honest, this is also a rare case of them Americanizing an episode a little bit. The story they tell more so resembles Nozomi Kozo, as I understand that tale, who, for all intents and purposes, is sort of a Japanese Robin Hood, so they instead say that this is an adaptation of Robin Hood, despite all the Edo period buildings and music and cultural stuff still being around. Also, apparently, there was a censored scene where Snoozer almost got shot? Oh my god! So we got Laura as an impoverished maid, Elder Ham as her grandfather, don't think about that too hard, Snoozer under an eternal sleeping spell, Maxwell as his counselor, Boss and a few others as these mercenary ninjas, Hamtaro as the titular Robin Ham, Brandy as his steed, and Howdy as this, evil wizard. You know, it's probably a good sign that even the writers of the show see him as a little villainous. The episode is also probably the most heated I have ever seen Maxwell. He's typically a lot more calm and collected, so this is actually really funny. We get this crazy fight scene, lots of really, really good posing and animation here. Howdy almost buries everyone in snow, Hamtaro shatters his magic equipment, we see Snoozer awake, which you have no idea how rare that is. The gold is given to Laura, and the day is saved. Yeah, Dream episodes get pretty crazy. It's a great send-off to Season 1 as well. Number 21 is Episode 1, Hamtaro.
I did it! Ah, she likes me! I knew I could make her happy! I'm the boss! Oh yeah, who rules? Oh.
The first episode of the series, and a fantastic first impression as well. It's one I wholly see through the lens of its humble beginnings. There's no fantastical elements, no truncation for the sake of pacing, no super big drama, just a humble tale of a family and their pet hamster moving into a new town. It establishes the character of Hamtaro and Laura incredibly well, particularly that Hamtaro is especially adventurous to a fault, always getting out of his cage and occasionally destroying things, including a wall which he uses to escape. All of future episodes from here, remember that he leaves the house through this hole that he made that is never fixed. While out, he meets Oxnard, who loses his seed and they bond over finding it. You know, during one of my watch parties, a friend said something that completely changed how I view this character. If this were a human, his sunflower seed would be the equivalent of a guy who just carries around a Subway sandwich at all times. Oh my goodness, they're right. They also meet Boss, and I forgot that they try to make him kind of scary at first. He shows them his tunnel, they also stop by Bijou. Is she okay? Well, they do sing her a song.
It looks just like Hamtaro.
It does? Yeah, I don't know, it's just a fun episode to go back to on occasion. Number 20 is episode 24. Hamtaro, please come home.
Whose room is this? It's not Laura's. Huh? Laura's grown a beard!
This episode is notable to me for being probably the closest Hamtaro ever gets to actually, no hyperbole and no joking around, literally almost dying. We're bumping this counter up right off the bat because the poor guy damn near freezes to death. Our plot begins with Hamtaro accidentally getting placed on a moving van and being whisked away to Lord knows where, before falling off into the frozen tundra. They draw this out a bit. Like, I knew they weren't gonna kill him off, but it got our watch party pretty concerned for him. Thankfully, a guy and his dog stopped by to save him. Oh my god, what a scenario. Once the humans and the hamsters notice, they get frantic trying to look for him, even making posters, all while Hamtaro starts his journey back home on his own once the storm clears up. It's also kind of a notable episode for me because the characters don't usually travel this much in a single episode. Oh, cool, he almost gets hit by a car. Are we taking this up twice in the same episode? Yes, we are. And then we get Jingle again, and... Oh no. Okay, this is rare, but this is a character I'm not a big fan of. Herbert the Pig. He's often seen with Jingle as kind of a steed, and I find they don't do much with him outside of cliché pig stuff. Not a huge fan of his design either, and it also doesn't help that he plays a huge role in my actual least favorite Hamtaro episode. It's not Watching Over Cute Penelope, it's actually episode 74 from season 2. This is his debut episode, though he doesn't do a lot here, which I'm fine with. This is also the debut episode of, is that fucking Zigbar? You know, they say he's already half Zaham Nords. Honestly, I don't have much to say about him either. I always forget his name. It's Sabu, I think. He's used very rarely, he doesn't seem to have much of a gimmick, and in fact, this is his only Season 1 appearance. But he is kind of fun here. Eventually, Hamtaro finds his way home, and the scene is a great reunion. This episode is all over the place. It's a pretty wild ride. Number 19 is episode 17, Hamtaro the Super Sleuth.
Well, there's a time for every colt and filly to learn right from wrong, I say.
We've cracked the top 20 here, and we have an episode with another compelling mystery. Stuff just starts disappearing from the clubhouse. Bijou's jewelry, Panda's tools, Maxwell's books, among other things. It seems nearly every character is missing something, leading to them to believe that a thief is on the loose. Even the idea of an antagonist in a series like this is unique. I genuinely had no clue where they were going with this. The human subplot also has most characters missing stuff too, which adds even more mystery to this. You're double-crossing yourself and suspecting certain characters all the time. Snoozer could have seen them, it could have been a wild animal, but the items stolen were too specific. Hamtaro gets suspicion put on him, Boss gets suspicion put on him, Cappy gets suspicion put on him, even Brandy gets suspicion put on him. Eventually everything is found under Boss's bed, then it's clearly him, right? But he has no motive, especially when some of Bijou's items were stolen too, and his stuff was stolen even as well. They build this up quite a bit, and the true culprit is honestly the last character I expected, Penelope. And she wasn't maliciously taking things, she was just trying to act grown up by putting stuff away, like the older characters do. That is really adorable. And it turns out a crow was stealing all the human stuff too. Yeah, this one goes unexpected places. I liked it quite a lot. Number 18 is episode 16. Get well, Laura.
Back up. Crump.
Hey, Give me one. I haven't had my lunch yet, Oxy.
The story begins with Laura with sleep deprivation due to Hamtaro's constant wheel running. I'm not sure if I mentioned this yet, but all the characters call this a wee wheel, which I think is kind of funny. And eventually, she finds herself being sent home sick due to exhaustion. And Boss also catches a stomachache that he might be faking for attention. Everyone goes to Hamtaro's house to find some yogurt to help him feel better, and they then find Laura arriving home early to take a sick day. Lots of stuff happening early. It really isn't often you see the whole Ham gang at Laura's house and nearly interacting with her at that too. If anything, this episode is super unique for that alone. Look, it's the council. The rest of the plot then revolves around them doing what they can to try and help her feel better. It's really funny watching everyone's collective one brain cell try to come up with ideas to help her feel better. Some of which obviously are going to work better than others, but they're trying their best, so let's just enjoy it. Their best idea ends up being to put a leaf soaked in dog water on her forehead. Don't ask. These hamsters work in weird ways. The moral of this episode is ultimately to get a good night's sleep, and I like that. It's simple, and that is good advice. It's a fun episode of a unique conflict that puts everyone in unique situations. Number 17 is episode 45, Ham Gang at the Aquarium.
I think I would have a better chance of finding the princess if I was on the other side of these fish windows.
Listen, I'm human, I'm prone to bias, this is sounding familiar. A big reason I love this one is mostly because of the aquarium setting. I love aquariums in real life, and it's super fun to see them somehow make an episode based on one here. Also, this episode might be the worst quality rip of the entire collection I have. Everything is so washed out, there's this permanent purple and green line at the top of the screen. My headcanon is that this episode got water damaged. Again, this weirdly adds to the immersion to me. Once again, we have the hamsters having to hitch a ride in the car, and we get a pretty badass moment where Boss hooks into the back of a moving car. Ah, there's the aquarium. So, the big motive for wanting to go in the first place is kinda weird. Hamtaro was being told this story about an ocean princess by Laura when she randomly fell asleep. But then they're made aware that the story is also being told at the aquarium. An adaptation between staff members for sure, though of course the hamsters believe the princess actually lives there and are now trying to actually find her. We get to see seals! Yes, seals! Look at them! Hamtaro pulls some crazy stunts here. He crucifies himself, he jumps all the way to a beach ball and manages to almost communicate with dolphins. Seriously, things just work out. Oh my god. They don't manage to meet the princess, but they do get home safely. Yeah, this one's just a good time. Number 16 is episode 33, Let's Cross the Rainbow.
That's weird. The water stopped coming out.
I think I know why.
Huh? Oh, right. Ah!
This episode is a classic example of every character being a dumbass, and it's actually the funniest thing ever. Oxnard sees a rainbow outside, and everyone goes to look at it. Immediately they ponder about what it tastes like, how to catch it to use as a decoration. We get this frame of Boss looking like a Diglett, but then Bijou arrives a little late, misses the rainbow, and starts complaining that she is going to, and I quote, lose her colors. What? As in, the colors in her life are going to start disappearing one by one. Hamsters are colorblind, by the way. Boss then convinces her that, oh yeah, that's an easy fix, you just need to cross a rainbow. What? This is the core conflict now. Hamtaro wants to make a rainbow, Boss wants to try to hunt a rainbow down, maybe it's underground? They talk about this thing like it's some kind of cryptid they just need to find, and meanwhile I am just pacing around my room as I watch this. How is this going to work? Eventually they get Elderham involved. He gives them an actually pretty good hint. Go to a high place right as rain is clearing up. Though they come kinda early, a lot of time goes by, they're getting discouraged, leaving one by one. But then the rainbow does come. It's beautiful. It's an emotional scene. Bijou's non-fear is resolved. What is going on? Why do they look like blocky Minecraft people? I am so confused. I love this episode.
If he stays outside, he'll get pneumonia.
Number 15 is episode 14, The Search for Sandy's Brother.
We've got a very special present for you, Sandy.
A rope?
So let's talk about Sandy. Sandy is a bit of a tomboy. Confidently a girl, but also super sporty, competitive, has a bit of a tough accent and exterior, but at the same time, she's the kind of tomboyish character I appreciate, where being one isn't really her gimmick. See, she also hangs out with the other girls a lot, and carries this ribbon everywhere that she does gymnastics with. I like her design a lot too. Tiger patterns on animals are super cute to me, and having a pigtail on her actual tail is pretty creative. She is also Stan's twin sister, and they have a really funny sibling dynamic. Particularly, she's always the first to call him out on his bullshit when he's acting out of line. She's like the one guy he can't talk back to, and it's really funny. This here is Stan's introduction episode, and predictably, Sandy plays a huge role in it too. This is another episode that starts off with some continuity, as one episode prior, an episode we actually haven't talked about yet, Sandy shares this song she used to share with him. And using this as a clue, the rest of the club begins a search to try finding him to surprise her. Things start moving into place pretty quickly as Laura actually finds the owner, this gym instructor guy, and she brings her hamster along for them to meet. Hamtaro sings her song to get his attention, and then they all start talking about her backstory. Stan reaches the clubhouse, and turns out he's kind of a party animal. How the hell did I not mention his maracas when I was talking about him earlier? He's carrying these around basically all the time. He's introduced to everyone, he starts hitting on Bijou. Oh goodness, here we go. You know, I kind of forgot that they find Stan pretty early in the episode, and then most of it is just trying to keep Sandy away from the clubhouse long enough for them to set up a surprise party. I love this part right here where Hamtaro and Bijou try to talk in secret right in front of Sandy. Like, she's right there, you idiots! When Sandy shows up, they all sing her song, and then this sequence where Stan comes skateboarding in might be one of the best animated moments in the entire show. Oh my god, this looks cool. This is a great introduction episode for a new character, and I believe this is also the last Clubhouse member to be introduced as well. So hey, one last notable thing about this episode is that it basically heralds in the entire main cast. That's pretty awesome. Number 14 is episode 29, The Search for Dad's Glasses.
I made myself some cardboard glasses once, but I couldn't see anything but brown.
Well, I walked past Connor's glasses one time and everything was blurry and I lost my balance and I tripped on my own paw, so I don't understand why anyone would want to have glasses either.
Something I haven't been too subtle about in this video is that I'm not the biggest fan of Dexter. So with that said, let that be a testament to how good this episode is, as it's one of his most prominent appearances ever, and it's within the top 15. This episode begins with Laura's dad misplacing his glasses and everyone pitching in to look for them.
Come on, let's go. Family emergency.
I love how idyllic this world is that this is what counts as a family emergency. The hamsters talk about the situation and get sidetracked, and they suddenly all want to try different kinds of glasses themselves. With no leads, the dad decides to go looking for new glasses, and we get to meet Dexter's owner. He owns an eyewear store. This scene is really funny. This guy clearly loves his job, but doesn't quite understand what the dad is looking for, so he just kind of offers him horrible frames for a while. The hamsters then find the missing glasses. And now for this fun trope again, where they gotta return the thing. Although it doesn't go quite as planned this time. A dog breaks the frames, and they just keep falling apart as they try to carry them back to Laura's house. It's quite a harrowing journey, but they manage to make it back right as a motorcycle runs them over. The glasses, not the hamsters. And then we get probably one of the funnier plot twists in this show I've seen, honestly. The dad found his glasses after all.
Well, I can't believe that my glasses would be sitting there on the bench right where I left them.
That is such a good line. The ones they've been carrying the whole time weren't even his, which kind of made the whole adventure pointless, but in a funny, ironic sort of way. The real resolution to this episode is that Dexter was able to pull some strings and get a cool pair of glasses for all the hamsters. These are all so incredible. They're all unique and fit everyone's personality so well. My favorites are Sandy's bubble goggles and Boss's anime sunglasses, ironically making Dexter the only Clubhouse member without a pair now, because remember, that's just a fur pattern. This one's fun. It's got some great moments, and it's a pretty amazing showing for a character I'm typically not a big fan of. Number 13 is episode 10, Jingle the Wanderer.
Oh no, the houses are all sliding backwards. Hamtaro, why are the houses moving?
You've come to the right Ham. I think it's what humans call a landslide.
This is Jingle's introduction episode, and also the final introduction episode of Season 1, which I guess also by process of elimination makes it my favorite introduction episode, and yeah, that checks out. Laura's dad left behind a floppy disk he needed for work at home and needs Laura to retrieve it and bring it to him. Huh. Okay, this episode came out in 2000, by the way. Even for the time, you think they'd be on CDs by now? Weird. Hamtaro gets stuck in her bag and the adventure begins. We're also introduced to the supporting cast for this episode prior to Jingle, and it's a pretty unique pairing of characters. Oxnard and Penelope. I don't know why these two are together and going on a walk of all characters, but they have a pretty fun, unique dynamic. I actually like them both a lot in this episode. My headcanon is that Oxnard was babysitting her. Heck, better him than these two, am I right? All three of them and the floppy disk get thrown out of Laura's bag, and we meet Jingle. This introduction scene is incredible. It's so perfect for what it tries to do. It's well written, it's well animated. Jingle in particular uses a lot of limited animation in creative ways when he plays his guitar. I'd love to show the whole thing. I enjoy it that much, but it's a little long for a cutaway in a YouTube review, I feel. Just trust me and check it out yourself. Anyway, Jingle is on a journey to find a pillow so he can watch clouds with it. Very wandering songwriter behavior right here. So now everyone begins the journey to find the floppy disk. Jingle finds it right away, though he doesn't know how important it is, so back to that later. Instead, he helps them by teaching them how to look at clouds. Love this guy. Again, he helps in roundabout ways. This music it plays during this scene is really tranquil. I don't think I've ever heard it anywhere else in the series. Their journey takes them to a junkyard, and we get a funny miscommunication gag before Hamtaro realizes that Jingle had the floppy disk all along. They return it, and everything turns out great. Number 12 is episode 25, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy New Year. Fellas, we have passed another threshold. We have reached my 4-star episodes. These are the best of the best. They're my favorites around, and moving forward, any one of these is a guaranteed banger. They're episodes I love to pull out to show new friends or circles, and are generally just Hamtaro writing, animation, and plot at its absolute best. Starting with the very first Christmas episode. It's a simple plot, with a flawless execution. It even starts with a pretty good moral. Laura sees a dollhouse she wants for Christmas, but figures it'd be fine to not get it since she knows her parents already got her something else nice for the holidays. I feel teaching kids not to expect absolutely everything on their wish list is a pretty nice lesson. Meanwhile, the hamsters are decorating for Christmas, and of course Cappy gets a Santa hat that's really cute, and they start talking about what they might like from Santa. And then we get probably the closest this episode gets to a conflict. Boss never quite saw the magic in Christmas because, in his words, Santa doesn't come to field hamsters. Which I guess makes sense. But then they all convince him that maybe he's just been naughty his whole life. So from here on, he is sickeningly sweet. And if I can be honest, it makes me a little uncomfortable, but I think it fits his character pretty well. Remember that he's expressed loneliness and a lack of family all his life. He's kind of desperate to experience something everyone else loves that he's never gotten an opportunity to. There's nuance to it I really like. The rest of the hamsters decide to try finding Santa, just to make sure he knows that Boss is trying his best. This takes them on a fun trip to the mall where they start praying. Very silly. Amen. We get a song that's a little annoying, but I actually love it because every character gets to sing a lyric. It's a little surreal as some of the actors and actresses here have very different sounding singing voices. It's also accompanied by a montage of nearly every hamster celebrating the holidays with their family. It's really cute. The next morning, Boss ended up getting a gift from Santa after all. He got this default blender orb and he is a little too excited about it, and Snoozer got What pride flag is that? The ending also implies that Elder Ham might have been the one delivering the gifts. That's pretty fun. Yeah, Christmas episodes are historically great in television shows and cartoons and anime, and Hamtaro is no exception. Number 11 is episode 19, Panda's Ham Fun Park.
Here, why don't you let me take a look at that? What's this thingamajig here doing attached to this? What's it?
Boss, you're looking at it upside down.
There's two things right off the bat I love about this episode. Firstly, it's another subject matter thing that I love. Amusement parks. And secondly, it's another rare episode where Panda gets a big role. In fact, this is probably Panda's most prominent episode in the series. Hamtaro overhears Laura talking about going to a park that day and brings the topic up to the rest of the hamsters. Panda brings up that he has always wanted to build an amusement park. In fact, he already has the schematics and a big plan and everything. Boss, Howdy, and Stan don't really see the point in it, but they honestly don't care. This scene really brings out the best in Panda, honestly. He's resourceful, he thinks things through, he listens to input. Like, you're realizing why I wish he got more screen time in general. This extends into the following scene too, where they actually start building the thing. He's also a really good leader when it comes to big projects, apparently, divvying up tasks responsibly and in a way that lets each hamster play to their strengths. Like, seriously, how do you make construction look fun? I love this. Even the dissenters want to get into it eventually. Boss gets pretty jealous about how good of a leader he's being, actually, and it's interesting to see a more vulnerable side of him like this. He finds himself helping along, too. You know, this episode probably has one of the funniest conclusions to a Human B-plot as well. Not like joke-wise or writing-wise, but more in terms of prospects. It's more silly the more I think about it. On the way to that big theme park, their family car broke down, so Kana suggested going to this other park. But it's for, like, really young kids. But they end up having more fun here than they probably would have at the big park. It's just really funny to me. This feels like something I would have done as a kid. Eventually, they end up building the Ham Fun Park, and they all have a ton of fun at it. Another great thing I love about this episode is that this park is actually used occasionally in future episodes as well. So Panda's contributions here have a lasting impact on the entire series. Again, he's a great character, and I'm shocked they don't use him more than they do. But this episode is a great showing for him, and I really love it. Number 10 is episode 21. Courage, Cappy.
I'll have to stay!
You can't stay! Wow! Ugh.
Hi, honey, I'm home!
So, Cappy is a character I find both charming and a bit inspiring. I go as far as to say that he is probably my second favorite member of the Ham-Hams even. Though he's also a character that's pretty underutilized, which always frustrated me. As a testament to that, you'll notice that on the wiki, it lists all the prominent episodes any given character has on that character's page. And Cappy only has like 4 of them in the main series, 3 of which are more episodes about another character they happen to pair with him a lot. So, what is it I find endearing about Cappy when he's not given a lot of screen time? Well, let's start with his gimmick. He's big into hats. He collects hats, he talks about hats. It's a pretty basic gimmick, admittedly. Though, personally, it kind of goes a little deeper than that to me. This is really hard to explain, so just understand that I mean this very affectionately when I say this, but something about how Cappy thinks, how he interacts with, and how he talks about hats strikes me almost as some kind of autism hyperfixation, and it led to me thinking a lot from there. Yeah, like, how he's written, how he interacts with others, how he can have a hard time expressing himself or standing out, Cappy feels very autism-coded to me. I just find him relatable and representative in ways I simply don't with other characters, in a way I can't really put into words that well. This might be a weird take, I know, but it's something I feel very strongly about, despite probably not being intentional. Like, I'm curious if this has ever crossed anyone else's mind before. There's other things I love about him too. He probably has one of the cutest relationships with his owners, as seen in this very episode, actually. It's implied they love to just find things and give them to him and see if he'll wear that like a hat, which he often does. If you're taking my autism interpretation into consideration here, you could totally equate this to parents who are very supportive of his hobby. It's so cute. The hat thing is also somewhat realistic too, as animals love to just be under things in general. It makes them feel safer, it makes them feel protected, and like they have a better vantage point of the world around them. Like, I don't know, again, he never gets a lot of attention in the series, but Cappy is an incredibly deep character if you're willing to read between the lines a little bit. He speaks to me a lot. Also, coincidentally, he shares a name with my favorite Mario character too. I bet they would get along really well. This episode starts on a rainy day. Most of the hamsters aren't gonna meet up at the clubhouse today as a result, although Cappy decides to head out anyway, and gets stuck along the middle of a river. Boss then saves him, although they both almost die on their way back to safety. Hey, I haven't seen this counter in a while. Afterwards, he starts looking up to Boss, seeing him as a big role model, and after oversleeping and getting too late to head back, he decides that he wants to become a field hamster. This here is more autism coding to me. I remember I too, as a kid, could be very one-tracked and get huge inspirations from stuff that ultimately might not be the best for me and even contradict other values of my own, as well as getting flustered or irrational over small things that feel much larger in the moment, overthinking everything, or getting frustrated when people try to spoil me or look down upon me because they know I'm different. This is still something I still kind of struggle with today as an adult. And not being able to understand even my own feelings when explaining my reasoning, it's complex, it's overwhelming, and again, like, Cappy goes through a lot of that here. Also, I was talking with a friend, and he brought up that this could also be seen as an example of Cappy masking, as in he's trying to act more like a field hamster to look normal to Boss, who he looks up to. A lot of this episode is everyone trying to convince Cappy to give up on the field hamster thing and return home, reminding him of everything he has in his life and how much his owners love him, and eventually he does do so after they all encourage him in a pretty heartwarming scene. If I can be honest, this episode is this high in the list solely for sentimental reasons more than anything. It's a basic plot with some weird pacing, some loose plot threads, and a weird B-plot that really doesn't seem like it ties into much of anything. I feel anyone else making a list like this would more understandably have this episode be more around the middle, though my overthinking brain sees a lot more to it than that. It's one of the first episodes to make me a little emotional. It's more than a story to me, it's a character study into a character I already really liked, and it felt validating in a way. Like, this episode just simply taught me a lot about myself and Cappy. You really can't say that very often. Number 9 is Episode 9, Much Ado About School.
This is Hamtaro playing with my dog, one of my better pieces. What's the matter? Don't you like it?
I know that hamster.
How did this show do it? How did they get me to care about a school episode? It's in the top 10 too. It's all over the place in a fun way. It has fun characters, it has a funny premise. Basically, it starts with a few of the hamsters going to Laura's school because Hamtaro heard Mr. Yoshi's name and assumed he was a school pet who would steal her attention away from him. I love this shot, by the way, where they try to blend it by looking like Lucky Cats. When they get to the clubhouse, they present the idea of setting up a little school for hamsters themselves. This is the main thing about this episode. It's also an episode where everyone is kind of a dumbass again, and it's very entertaining. I feel like talking about a certain someone too, because this is the first episode in the rankings where my favorite character in all of Hamtaro gets a pretty big role. Maxwell. You know, I should have seen this coming a mile away, but of course my favorite episodes would include all of my favorite characters, which is why it's taking so long to get to them all in the rankings. I thought I would have gone over all of them by now, but there's still only one left after this. So anyway, Maxwell is a bookworm. Now, you might hear that and think that he has a lot of overlap with Dexter, who is a nerd. At first glance, they might appear to share the same niche, but they're actually quite distinct from one another. The simplest I can describe it is, while Dexter is the type of nerd you want to shove in a locker, Maxwell is the type of nerd you want to help you with your school project. He's a bookworm who likes to use his extensive worldly knowledge to help others. And as a result, he's typically the first a lot of characters go to when they need to learn about something that the average hamster would be unfamiliar with. Now, a big reason he's my favorite character is because, like with Cappy, I find myself relating to him on a pretty personal level. He strikes me as someone I sort of want to become, while also making me self-aware of human flaws of my own. I talked about this a little bit in my Y2K video essay. Yes, really, those are the kinds of sentences you will only hear on my channel. Case in point, I find personal validation in being depended on. Although I'm aware I'm not particularly strong physically or good socially, I can sometimes overthink or overplan things. I'm not exactly sure how to react when I realize I'm wrong about something, and I also get overwhelmed pretty easily too. But what I do have is patience, a pretense to organize, a strong urge to help others communicate, and know-how on how to find information. I feel like I'm not traditionally somebody you'd think to include, but I strive to be a good enough friend who plays to my strengths to be someone others want to hang around with. His design is hilarious too. He's just a normal hamster with a slightly taller, stretched head, and I find he's often off-model the most in ways I find super funny. A running joke in my watch parties actually is screenshotting every time I see a Scrunkly Maxwell, and let me tell you, I have a lot of Scrunkly Maxwells. But yeah, he's an incredibly important character to me. I'd even go as far as to call him a comfort character even. I get super happy when I realize he's going to play a big role in an episode, and I love seeing him help out because I see sort of the best version of myself in him a little bit. It's pretty inspiring. Maxwell is notable in this episode because he's the one who volunteers to be the teacher of this hamster school, and the coach, and the scheduler, and the conductor, and most leadership roles in general, because he loves to help others so much. Though a combination of him taking his job too seriously and the hamsters just not being built for this naturally leads to him pretty overwhelmed by it all. It's one of those rare moments where a character being out of character says a lot about them and gives a good glimpse into the nuance of their personality. Also, props for getting me to care about a sports scene. Watching them play soccer badly with a walnut is really funny. And eventually they do find a subject they like, in choir class. Also, this is a good boss face. This is the first episode where Maxwell plays a pretty big role like this, and it's one that kind of made me understand how much I like this character. I like it a lot. Number 8 is episode 49, The Search for the Pendant.
I've got to keep looking! Girls, where's he going?
Okay, we've had a couple very long entries as we've literally talked about my two favorite characters in back-to-back episodes. The next entry is a bit more simple of a plot, starting with the topic of marital conflict. Oh yeah, simple. Laura's parents had a fight after the dad lost a game of air hockey? Actually, what are they playing here? It doesn't really show, but they're holding air hockey pucks, it seems, despite how tiny of a table that is. Is this maybe a Japanese tabletop game I'm not familiar with? Interesting. The dad and Laura go out to the mall to buy a makeup gift, and Jingle shows up. I love this scene where he talks about the travels he's gone on recently, including to Egypt and the United Kingdom? And inside a whale? Chronology-wise, it's been about 10 episodes since we've last seen him, I believe. He's been busy. The humans buy a locket and almost immediately lose it, and you can probably guess where this is going. A ton of hamsters, basically the whole clubhouse besides Snoozer, head out to the mall at night to look for it, and Jingle tags along by happenstance. The big thing I love about this episode is that most of it is more or less them messing around in a mall. The plot is simple, but there are countless great moments in between that ultimately lead to an episode that's just fun. I love this running gag where they believe there's some kind of shop wizard who's making all the machinery and lights go on, when it's just Jingle messing around behind the scenes. Again, he helps in roundabout ways. Why is there, like, a Toy Store Angel animatronic? Oh my god, it's actually kind of creepy. We get a flashback scene of how Laura's parents first met, and it's pretty funny. Jingle once again finds the thing, and they return it. The dad gives the mom the gift, they make up, and Jingle drifts back into the wind. Again, it's a simple episode, but It's just really fun. Number 7 is episode 48, Ham Clubhouse in Danger.
What's the look we're going for again? Remind me.
Bijou's been calling it Nouveau Antique, but I'd call it Retro Ham.
Ouch.
So, little confession. This episode is actually the reason I wanted to turn this counter into a running thing in the first place. You want to guess how many hamsters almost die in this episode? Ham Clubhouse in Danger tackles a subject I honest to God never saw coming. Natural disaster. The premise of this episode is the clubhouse gets hit with a flash flood that nearly drowns everyone. This is the most danger you will ever see these characters in. Oh my god! Hamtaro and Oxnard walk in on the gang renovating the whole clubhouse, just as it's starting to rain pretty heavily. Amal goes digging along the area in a way that causes water to start leaking into the tunnel just outside the front door. They can't open it due to all the water and are starting to panic a bit. I remember the watch party watching this for the first time and starting to get really nervous here. That water is not gonna go away on its own. Heck, they're even cutting to Yoshi explaining how a bad drainage system can damage a home. Now that's foreshadowing. This gave us a really bad feeling of just impending disaster. It's an uncomfortable feeling you basically never get with this show. This episode is super unique just for that. You know you have an episode of a lot of tension when we're talking amongst ourselves what might happen next, and that was exactly what was going on here. The water then starts leaking under the door, and oh boy, here we go. Panda has a really heroic moment here where he starts hammering a blockade and even instructs everyone to start taking apart the furniture to get wood to help build it. God, I love how resourceful on top of stuff he always is. The water is beyond powerful, and the whole clubhouse starts flooding. Oh, of course they had to remind us of that, too. This particular shot right here makes me really claustrophobic. Oh my god, this part is scary, dude. Okay, so the real reason this episode is so high to me is because... God damn, the hamsters are somehow able to get themselves out of this one. Even more so than the shock value of the subject matter, it's an episode I associate the most with how well the hamsters are able to coordinate a way out of this situation. Snoozer's mumbling gives them ideas, Boss's digging and survival skills helps them burrow most of the way out, Panda's smart thinking gets them out of a snag, Maxwell gives advice and provides emotional support. Even Penelope gets an amazing moment here where they reach a hole too small for anyone else to squeeze through, but they're able to push her through it, and she runs off and gets Brandy to help dig them the rest of the way out. It's a harrowing episode, but it's truly heartwarming to see everyone working together like this. Really, the only character who doesn't contribute anything is Howdy, who is so out of line that Hamtaro actually has to reprimand him.
Land's sakes, what kind of a plan are we gonna get from someone that says one word?
I've had just about enough of you, Jelly Roll. You say too much.
Very in character, honestly. There's even some good morals here, too, for situations where you're in extreme environmental disasters like this. Stay calm, stay coordinated, keep to the high ground if you safely can. Save yourself and your companions first before your possessions. Yeah, this is a crazy one. You basically never see them get into this level of peril. Once everyone is safe, they clean up and repair the clubhouse, and it ends with them setting up a drain so the clubhouse will never flood again. God, what a good episode. Number 6 is episode 23, Maxwell's Big Scoop.
So long! I'm gonna be the first one to check out this island over here for my big scoop.
This episode is this high for pretty much the same reason the Cappy episode is in the top 10. It's a great episode in its own right, though is elevated a lot for me personally, for basically doubling as a character study, as this is probably Maxwell's single most prominent episode. And of course, I'm going to love the episode dedicated to my favorite character. Heck, I'd even say it contributes to why he's my favorite character in a way. So anyway, this episode is all about newspapers and journalism. Laura gets into volunteer writing for her school's paper, Hamtaro tells the club about it, and they all call him dumb because newspapers are actually for tearing up and sleeping on, of course. And then Maxwell decides that they should all make a little newspaper business for themselves. Oh my goodness, look how happy he is. So then everyone goes to find the type of news that interests them. Pashmina does interviews, Bijou does fashion, Dexter reports on dog fighting? What? Maxwell then reads over everyone's work as the editor and isn't too impressed by any of it. And we get a glimpse into a notable flaw of his character here. He's too much of a perfectionist sometimes. So, when I said that Maxwell has a way of making me self-aware of my human flaws, this is actually a pretty good example. It's always good to want to put your best effort into something or do things by the books, though if you're putting too much time into perfecting everything, it can drag others behind and just make stuff less fun in general. This is a lesson Maxwell learns a few times, honestly. The show in general sort of taught me the importance of going with the flow and working more with vibes sometimes. They give it an extreme version of that addendum about how it's good to just finish something first and then polish it later. Good enough is good enough, in other words, and can honestly help with your mental energy too. Hamtaro and Oxnard walk upon a frozen lake. Oh yeah, at this point in the series, it's starting to get pretty chilly, actually. Like, the episode right after this was the one where Hamtaro almost dies in a polar vortex, and then the one after that is the Christmas episode. Yes, the tones are all over the place sometimes. That's that kind of chaos factor I like, actually. The whole gang checks out the frozen lake and has fun, though Boss accidentally breaks the ice and almost dies, and then they all flee to an island in the middle of the lake. Hold off on that for a second. So now they're stranded. What to do? And here we get another glimpse into Maxwell's insecurities. He's bad under pressure. He loves to help others, but he tends to do so best when in safe environments, if that makes sense. He also gets overwhelmed kind of easily too. Like, I think this is what the kids call a crash out. Their big plan to escape the island is to make a big raft that gets caught up in a current and starts drifting into a storm drain. There we go. Honestly, I kind of forgot we had a near mass extinction in this episode too. Maxwell's smart thinking gets them to safety in the end, a much more reckless approach than he typically suggests, but desperate times call for desperate measures. We get to see Maxwell's home. We don't see his owner, but he seems to live in some kind of library or bookstore. Of course. Maxwell recovers and everyone writes the first paper article all about him and admit that maybe they rely on him a bit too much sometimes. It's a great episode with some great life lessons to take from it, and it's about my favorite character too. An absolute obvious top one for me. Number 5 is episode 13. Let's Dance, Sandy.
I'm getting dizzy. You got anything else you can show me? Oh yeah, swooshing the ball.
This is a dense episode of a lot of great moments. We open on Sandy singing that song we talked about in Stan's introduction episode, and Maxwell asks about it. As he walks off, it's revealed that Sandy kinda has feelings for him. Elderham is holding a talent festival with the prize of a huge pile of sunflower seeds. The girl hamsters are practicing a gymnastics routine together. Oh yeah, this is a Sandy episode if you can't tell. Gymnastics are kind of her thing too. And the boy hamsters are rehearsing the classical play Hamlet. Of course they are. This scene where the girls are showing Hamtaro their performance is cute. There's this running gag I forgot to mention with Sandy where she can grab onto people's tail with her ribbon. How? And this leads into a scene where Sandy confesses that she really likes Maxwell and wants Hamtaro to casually ask if he feels the same.
The thing is that Sandy likes Maxwell a whole lot. Yeah, well, so do I.
But of course they had to ask the most Ace Arrow-coded character in all of fictional history. My god, he's great. I feel like as a kid I'd be like this in this kind of scenario too. Hamtaro is late for Hamlet rehearsal for Elder Ham's festival. Are you tired of the word ham yet? It's been like at least 2 hours now. Maxwell decides to put him on props and... Okay, I need to bring some attention to this. He's given one of those all-black stagehand suits to help out with this, but whenever I share no-context bits from this episode with folks, they always assume it's like an executioner's outfit. I think it has something to do with the shape. It looks really weird on such a round body. The festival begins and Hamtaro finds a moment to ask Maxwell, and his reaction is pretty cute. He doesn't outright say he likes her back, but he blushes and says some nice things about her. That's pretty much the same thing, right? You know, bit of a tangent here, but from here on, This relationship mostly manifests as something that's never entirely confirmed out loud, but is pretty obvious in every other conceivable, imaginable way. There's tons of scenes throughout the show where you'll notice them together, longingly looking at each other, holding hands together. They'll be the first to remember close information about the other in random conversations. Dare I say, this relationship between Sandy and Maxwell is probably the healthiest relationship in the entire show, and it's one that's entirely between the lines. That's pretty cool. Well, I'm assuming besides this one episode of Fern keeps recommending, I'll get to that eventually. The girls' performance goes fantastically, but before the boys could do their performance, Penelope falls off the stage and Sandy saves her. They ham this up. Oh my god. They exaggerate this like the fall could actually kill her, but like, that doesn't look that high up, right? Elderham is so impressed by this that he ends the festival immediately and gives the girls the prize. Oh, okay. And it ends with him recognizing Sandy and her song. He's seen a hamster that looks like her before, and they all ruminate on that as the episode ends. The episode immediately after this is the Stan introduction, by the way, making this probably the closest the series ever gets to a two-parter. And if you remember, I like that episode a lot too. So yeah, this is a great little saga. Number 4 is episode 50. Even the Ham-Hams get seasick.
Maxwell, do you think we will get back from the other side of the water before bedtime?
No.
This is probably the biggest entry that's personal to me in a way that probably wouldn't be for others. So, for a little context, I am a Mainer. I love Maine, I talk about it a lot, and it's a state that sort of advertises itself as vacation land. Like, that's its little tagline. So, of course, I sometimes have friends or reviewers ask me for any recommendations if they were to ever visit the state, or New England in general. I got a whole list of places I love recommending. I was originally going to list a bunch in the script here, but it itself was like 4 minutes long, so for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to show a few favorites on screen here. One of my absolute favorite things to recommend, though, is some kind of day trip that both starts and ends in the city of Portland, with some time in between to visit Peaks Island, an island community that you take a public transit ferry to get to. Honestly, that itself is even a highlight of the experience, which is a gorgeous place for events and to hike and to just take in all the sights. So, long story short, this episode feels like a trip to Peaks Island to me. They don't even travel to an island in this episode, but they got the ferry, they got a pier, they got the ocean air and like ocean aesthetic, and Maxwell's even in it as well. It feels almost like an episode specifically engineered for me personally to enjoy it. So yeah. Laura has taken a field trip on a boat and a bunch of hamsters want to tag along. We get this funny scene where Boss bluffs about having gone on tons of sea voyages before, but gets nervous as soon as he realizes that the other hamsters actually want to go on the boat too. Even Maxwell tags along, seeing it as a fun learning opportunity. I love this scene right here where they're just exploring and doing stuff around the pier. The idea gets into all of their heads that Laura might be leaving for a different country on the boat. What? At this point, they get split into two groups. This scene right here, where they almost fall off a rope and into the ocean, has got to count for the counter, right? Ah, man, I really wanted Maxwell to experience that boat ride. Well, anyway, we are on sea now. Boss gets seasick, and also Travis, too. Yeah, remember him? We haven't talked about Travis in a while, actually. You know, a thing I do really like about this character is that despite his pretense of being the popular, perfect, sporty kid, the show does show him to have realistic human weaknesses here, too. Like, it's also implied that he doesn't get the best grades, that kind of stuff. It's kind of funny. And it kind of prevents him from being a Marty stew as well. Like, I kind of like Travis after moments like this, ironically. But anyway, yeah. Laura actually gets a pretty heroic scene here where her and Kana help him out.
Forgive me, my bijou. You're special.
And I'm Yuffie. Yeah, Auntie Viv makes a surprise appearance in this episode too, and we get a bit of lore with her. She used to belong to a sea captain. That's pretty cool.
My best friends are gone, except Max. And Sandy and Stan are probably at home. And Panda's still here and Snoozer's slept in. And Food's coming back. Oh, that's nice.
Almost. I laughed so hard at that when the watch party first saw this episode. Boss's bluff is called out, and yeah, fantastic episode. Again, it has all of my favorite stuff too, and feels practically made for me. Of course I'm gonna love it. Number 3 is episode 26, The Legend of the Courageous Hamtaro.
Welcome to the neighborhood. Here. Don't mind if I do it. How well-mannered. He eats with both paws.
This is another Dream episode. In fact, it's actually the first Dream episode in the series. And if you can't tell by its placement here, they kinda nailed it on the first try. I won't pretend there isn't a little bias here. I mean, I've always been a huge medieval fantasy guy. I love knights, I love castles, I love magic, but just trust me, this is one of the greatest episodes ever made as well. Laura rushes home with a book she wants to read, Hamtaro. Love this frame right here, though what expression is this exactly? They instantly fall asleep and, oh boy, here we go. Welcome to the Ham Kingdom. Laura is a princess, Pashmina and Penelope are her handmaidens, Sandy, Dexter, Howdy, Maxwell, and Stan are her knights. He calls himself Sir Stan Bragalot and also chivalrous, of course he does. I'm genuinely surprised he doesn't refer to Laura as my lady here, I don't know. Elderham is the court wizard, Jingle is a bard. That one's really obvious but also pretty clever. Snoozer is just there. I think he's a prison guard, not a very good one. Dexter might have misgendered him at the end of the episode for some reason. Oxnard and Bijou are humble villagers, and Hamtaro is a noble, brave knight from out of town. Something I love about this episode is that there are a lot of meta jokes. I tend not to be a meta joke guy, but they kind of work here. They're both in reference to the dream setting itself, and even this one joke right here, which is borderline fourth wall breaking.
You want me to be the hero? Mm-hmm. Guess I could spare a couple minutes.
Should only take 20 minutes or so.
The average episode of this show is around 20 minutes. That's kind of wild. You never get jokes that meta with this show, and it's one that completely flew over me the first time too. Hamtaro is brought to the royal castle and learns about a premonition about an evil wizard coming to destroy the land. He takes up the opportunity to defend the kingdom, but then Jingle comes out of nowhere and confuses everyone into thinking that he is the hero of the story, which naturally leads to Hamtaro being put in prison. Don't question it, remember, they all share the same brain cell. Why is this shot of Hamtaro in prison, like, really funny? Bijou breaks him out. This episode moves fast, keep up, keep up. Our villain then enters the scene. It's Boss, and he looks like this.
In this land of yellow, flowers and talk of corn, but love's riddles remain incomplete like a balding man's scalp gleaming through barcode hair.
Jingle, what are you talking about? You just abandoned the kingdom to perish! Boss applies the paint.net noise filter to all the flowers and then kidnaps Laura with his overly detailed hand, oh goodness. And then Hamtaro shows up, Brandy shows up to be a steed again. He can fly?
Good thing Brandy learned how to fly recently.
That is one of my favorite quotes in the entire show. Like I mentioned a couple times before, you very rarely get fight scenes in this show, and this is probably one of the best animated ones ever. Boss does that thing to Brandy that Xehanort did to Ventus during the endgame of Birth by Sleep. Laura preys upon a star during the day, which revives them. God throws a sword at them. We get one of the coolest shots ever, and he freaking explodes. The day is saved. I love it. I absolutely love this one. It is a wild ride from beginning to end that never lets up. It's an absolute roller coaster. This is an episode that did everything it set out to do and then some. It also introduced a new type of episode, which historically are always some of my favorites. It's just great. Number 2 is episode 41, The Scary Museum.
Okay, follow me, everybody!
This museum is haunted!
God God, I love museums. This episode is about a big museum. It kind of reminds me of a children's museum I went to as a kid too, so you got that personal connection there. And while I wouldn't call it a Maxwell episode per se, he does have a lot of screen time in it, so yeah, of course I'm going to love this one a lot too. Fun subject matter, favorite character plays a substantial role, it's pretty great. How this episode starts is pretty ridiculous. Laura and the mom are talking about this museum exhibit when she casually says that one of the displays looks like a giant sunflower seed. This instantly catches Hamtaro's attention, and suddenly him, and the rest of the gang for that matter, want to go see it. They also think the giant seed is connected to aliens somehow. Oh my god, look at that man's nose. Due to the setting, you get a lot of fun shots and set pieces you just never get from anywhere else in the show. It's unique and fun. Maxwell acts as sort of a tour guide for everyone else too, and he plays the role rather well. Him desperately trying to keep everyone on track and not distracted is really funny.
Get down from there this instant, Penelope!
My favorite scene in this episode, though, actually has nothing to do with the museum. It's the lunchtime scene. Boss decided to make a lunch for Bijou. It's a box of colorful seeds and fruits, but when she eats one, they're kinda terrible. She shares them with everyone else too, and they react basically the exact same way. Boss tries one himself, apparently he hasn't up to that point, and he thinks they're awful as well. There's a line right at the start of the scene that clues into what's going on here. Apparently, Elder Ham helped Boss prepare this lunch, so my headcanon here is that this is one of those really acquired taste kinds of food, like blue cheese or stinky tofu. There is one person who likes them, however. Maxwell!
Don't tell me you like it!
This distinctive bitterness with an undercurrent of earthy essences.
Oh my god, he even talks about food the same way I do. Why am I this character? Oh my god. So, yeah, that's pretty fun. We then get this, like, interactable science area scene. Ooh, a purposeful Scrunkly Maxwell, a new breed. One of these frames colored his arms incorrectly. That is a really charming error. That's kind of a cool design, actually. Bijou gets caught on a hook and begins rising into moving gears. That's gotta be one of the most gruesome potential deaths yet. And then we get a heroic boss scene where everyone operates a pressurized ball cannon to launch him at her, and then they, like, all save her together. Yeah, this episode rules. Lots of variety, lots of fun moments, great writing, setting. I really love it. Number 1 is episode 20, The Snoozer Mystery.
Can you believe he's still sound asleep?
Let's hope he doesn't wake up just yet.
Now that's what I call catching some big air.
We're gonna need a rescue plan, and I mean pronto! What is this pronto?
Snoozer. So, you might think it's a bit ridiculous for the final character entry to be literally right at the last minute here. Surely this isn't the one and only time this character is prominent in an episode, right? Well, it kinda is. And once you understand Snoozer as a character, it just kinda makes sense for that to be the case. Snoozer's lore is that he just kinda showed up one day, fast asleep in Boss's clubhouse. We don't know how he got there, we don't know where he came from, and then from then on, Snoozer is just kinda there, sleeping the days away, often doing nothing more than being a background character. The most he contributes are just his funny little drowsy ramblings that tend to inspire or give ideas to those who just happen to be around.
Hamtaro gets a little excited sometimes, but he's never mean or unkind.
His voice is adorable too. There's not much to Snoozer, but I think that works in his favor here, making for a character with literally nothing to dislike about him. It's clear what he does and what his deal is, as mysterious as it may be. But there is one episode where he does get the spotlight, and it's my favorite episode of Season 1. So anyway, the hamsters are doing spring cleaning at the clubhouse. Snoozer is sleeping on a table, and since they can't get him awake to clean it, they decide to carry the whole table with him on it outside. This gets them to start talking about Snoozer, speculating. Who is this guy exactly? Where did he come from? What are his origins? And they come to one of two conclusions. Both are pretty ridiculous. They conclude that he is either an alien. This sequence where Howdy, daydreams about this is really funny, or he is either the long-lost pet of a king from a far-off Arabian land in disguise whose name is Omar. Sure. Meanwhile, Snoozer gets bumped onto an RC car. Oh no, they're stealing him! And he gets Rube Goldberg towards Oxnard's house. He gets run over by a car during this, and there is probably the last one for the counter, actually. 47. Jeez, and that's if I didn't miss any, which I probably did. That's almost a ratio of 1 per episode. I don't know what the point I was trying to prove with all of this was. I was just curious. Laura and Connor are watching sci-fi horror, and Oxnard is not taking it well. They then hear a bump upstairs and assume that it's an alien and leaves to go check on it, and Oxnard really doesn't take that well. Something starts running at him. There's a lot of good suspense to the scene. It's pretty obvious what's going on here, but they play it pretty earnestly, which makes it so much more fun. Meanwhile, all the other hamsters are looking for Snoozer. How everyone has a different theory or take on the situation here is really fun. Guys, the single brain cell is splitting. For one, I actually agree with Howdy here. If he did belong to a wealthy king and lived in luxury, why wouldn't he just go back to him? But then they see Snoozer. He gets dropped by a bird and onto a mattress truck, and then back to Oxnard's house where he lands on top of Omar. I want to say, too, these short scenes where he is wandering around the house while talking to Oxnard are very comedic. He just wants to find some food, while Oxnard is under the impression that he is an alien who is going to eat him personally if he doesn't find any. This here has got to be one of the funnier screams in the show.
Don't move! I'm coming for you!
They all finally meet up and... oh my god, the resemblance. I gotta say, Omar might be my favorite side character introduced in Season 1. This is his only appearance, and he leaves a strong first impression, obviously. I'm kind of a sucker for Arabian Nights aesthetic in general, I will admit, but beyond that, he's just funny. There's something amazing about how he looks identical to Snoozer and even has the same actress. Actually, looking on the wiki, I didn't realize this, but she also voices Laura's mom too, who doesn't appear in this episode actually, but to think that this could have easily been a triple role for her, Jesus. Turns out, Snoozer is just Snoozer. There's no conspiracy, there's no big, hidden thing to him. He's just a sleepy little guy, and that's okay. Omar, on the other hand, has grown bored of his cushy life and has decided to dedicate himself to world travel, which is how we ended up here in the first place. And just, yeah, he walks off into the sunset. They say they might see him again. They probably will later in the series. Again, there's 300 episodes of this. This is my favorite Season 1 episode. It's a very silly intrigue, but it's also a really well-written, really great intrigue, too. It's a nice story with elements that tie into each other in fun ways. It's really funny, and is just the kind of perfect amalgamation of everything I love about Hamtaro. And that is every single Season 1 Hamtaro episode ranked. This might be one of the funnest essays I've put together in a while. Although, if I can be honest for a minute too, I'm a little stuck on a dilemma here. So, this video was originally going to have a segment where I talked a bit about Season 2 episodes. Basically, about 5 or more entries on this list for some of my favorites and least favorite episodes from the next 52 big adventures. Because, call me crazy, I think Season 2 could make for an even crazier video. I describe it as having higher highs and lower lows, if that makes sense. My favorites I found myself enjoying even more than the Snoozer mystery, while a couple particular least favorites go beyond the realm of watching over cute Penelope to not only make me bored, but even make me a little uncomfortable. But on the other hand, I'm pretty burnt out. I began working on this video around September, and as of the time I'm writing this ending, it's March 1st, so about half a year. I'm Hamtaro'd out, dude. I love this show, but I think it's reasonable to say that it'd be a bit refreshing to work on something else. This was an incredibly fun phase of my life, experiencing this show for the very first time and getting into it far more than I could have ever predicted. Though, to not leave you all hanging though, here are a few notable episodes from Season 2 just for the road, and maybe as a bit of a call to action to anyone else on YouTube who would love to try their own style of video like this. This show's a ton of fun to talk about. If you review or analyze cartoons or anime, I'd recommend it. So anyway, here are 2 episodes I hate and 2 episodes I love from Season 2. First is episode 93, Hannah is in Love. A Howdy-centric episode, no thank you, featuring a new minor character sporting a design that just feels a tiny bit stereotypy to a degree that I'm just a little uncomfortable with it. And the whole plot is around him trying to set up a date between her and Dexter without his knowledge or consent for some reason, and everyone wants to help and enables this also just for no reason really. A friend watching along put it best, you know you have a bad episode when it's about Howdy, and he's the least problematic part about it. And yeah, that checks out. I think everyone just felt weird by the end of this one. It kind of ruined the mood of that night. Next is episode 74, Welcome Home, Penelope. My least favorite episode in the series, and god, I just feel really bad for Penelope. She's the focal point of my 2 least favorite Hamtaro episodes, and both times it's not really her fault. Ironically being more an issue of everyone around her acting way too childish. Basically, she grows a liking to Hubert and wants to go on adventures with him and Jingle, and that's where the depth ends. The entire rest of the episode is everyone trying to convince Penelope to stay, and eventually it just devolves into them arguing with a literal baby, and it just gets really annoying. I must say, her little nonverbal interjections are, for the most part, cute, but this is the only time I've ever found myself outright annoyed with them. I don't know why they're acting like this even. Jingle's always around, so it's not like she'd be gone forever. It's the same ultimate issue I had with my other least favorite Penelope episode, where it presents an awesome concept that would have her connected with characters she really never interacts with. Like, a Penelope and Jingle episode where they go on adventures together would be kind of badass, you know? But it just falls apart in every way instead. On the other end, we have episode 89, Hamtaro in the Spaceship. This episode had me on the endgame of my seat. Thank you, autocorrect. Hamtaro visits a planetarium, and the experience just implodes his tiny, tiny hamster brain. He then starts to believe that he is an alien, and that his alien brethren are coming to abduct him to take him back to space. The suspense is enormous here. Like, he actually believes this is going to be his last day on Earth. The final scene is intense beyond belief and also gives us the hardest frame in all of animation. Seriously, I want a cell of this on my wall. Right until the very end, you never know where this one is going, and it's an absolute top pick. And then, Laura and the 7 Hamsters. This is my favorite Hamtaro episode ever. It's a dream episode, an adaptation of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs specifically, but it also manages to be so much more than that. As in, it's a dream about being actors in a movie about Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. And it's just kind of an unhinged adaptation of the story in general, too. This extra layer of meta makes for a whole new experience I never thought possible from this show. Like, seriously, this has got to be one of the funniest episodes ever. There's even one joke in particular where I had to leave the room for a second because I was laughing way too goddamn hard. It's a great showing for Sparkle, too. My favorite character introduced in Season 2, actually. She's a bratty celebrity who thinks she's above everyone else, and this hubris tends to come back to bite her a lot. It's a fun trope to get a lot of mileage out of, and you can tell her actress has a blast of her, too. I guess by technicality, this also makes this probably my favorite adaptation of Snow White ever, for as wild as that sounds. Like, I don't know, man, I just love this episode. It's perfect in every way it sets out to. The final scene is insane, too, where they're not really fighting the evil witch, they're instead just arguing with the director about, like, union terms or something. It's so funny. Now for miscellaneous stuff. Always a fun part of the video. Basically topics I wanted to mention, but couldn't really find a place to put them. Firstly, at the start of this video, I mentioned that I'm going to get super heated, and that didn't really end up happening. Okay, I guess that kind of stuff happens when you're working on a video for like half a year. I wanted to mention this funny story about how the game put me under this impression that Hamtaro is non-verbal, because he actually never talks in the game, which made for a pretty funny reaction when we started watching the first episode, and I quickly realized that he is one of the most talkative characters in the show. And speaking of the game, Cappy. So, at one point I was going to make a joke that Cappy might be most well known for his role in this game, where you have to do this really frustrating minigame in order to get him to join you. And I'm just genuinely curious, was this part particularly a roadblock for any of you who happen to grow up with this game? Is this like a Miltank thing, where there's probably a trick to it, but it is deceptively difficult if you don't know what you're getting into? I just want to know. So I haven't talked much about voice performances in this video, mostly because English anime is a field I'm pretty unfamiliar with. To go into detail about talent would entail just listing other shows and characters I don't know, which doesn't really sound fun to me. This isn't like the Minecraft Story Mode video, where most actors tended to do at least one other thing I knew well. There was one instance of this I recognized while doing research that caught me off guard, though. The English voice of Maxwell also voices Light from Death Note. To think that this guy plays two characters of a pretense to think outside the box and are never too far away from a particular book. Now given, this is a very different type of book, but I just overall found the connection hilarious. While doing research on the Ham Ham Paradise website, I noticed this tucked away section called Awards. From time to time, people would give an award to the Ham Ham Paradise website for various reasons. Here they are. There's only like 5 of these somehow, and they're pretty charmingly old internet too. A couple in particular look like DeviantArt stamps to me, they're so charming. I can't fathom when the last time this page was touched might be, but if by chance a webmaster happens to see this video, I made an award of my own if you'd like to add it to this page. I cannot emphasize just how much this website has helped me in the creation of this video. I probably wouldn't have been able to complete this in the first place if it weren't for them. So, thank you, Ham Ham Paradise. Truly, thank you. At this point, my watch party has finished Season 2, and from here on, our plan is mostly to hop around future episodes that either feature favorite characters or introduce ones that look amazing to me or I just gotta know more about. Mostly because anything past Season 2 was never localized. Only the first 100 or so episodes were ever dubbed, which is about a third of the main series. And at the start of this, I did mention that I'm more of a dub guy personally. As to why the rest of the series was never dubbed in English, I honestly have no clue, though I'd assume it'd be something like the series just not being as profitable anymore overseas or something. After we're done with that, our watch party will probably move on to a different cartoon. Probably Animaniacs, actually. That's a series I always want to see more of, particularly every episode featuring Slappy Squirrel, who is my favorite Looney Tunes character. I'm not saying that to say that you should expect a video about Animaniacs in the future. Okay, I think I've officially exhausted my relevant topics here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, Royalblot Sean, Trevor, Great Wolf Fire Striker, Isaac 3000, and Jacob Lawson. Thank you all for your support, and if you enjoyed this video, please share it around. I would love to see the general Hamtaro fandom's reaction to this video, and if you guys, like, seriously, I know, like, being a very personal list, a lot of y'all are gonna disagree with some of these, and I'm very curious to hear where you would rank a lot of these episodes compared to my own. But, yep, that will be it for the video. Thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you folks later. Thanks for watching.